good? Good evening, everybody. Welcome to the regular meeting tonight of the Town of Shaftsbury Select Board, Monday, September 16th. We are meeting just a little bit early tonight because we have several items on the agenda that of discussion, and different people are coming in tonight. So in order to fit it all in the discussion we'll have, we wanted to start a bit early. So, does any member of the board have a conflict of interest with any item on the agenda this evening?
Nope.
No.
Okay. Next item is approval of minutes, but our minutes that we got just came out late this afternoon, so with the board's consent, I would ask that we table that till the next meeting.
Agreed.
Not a problem.
Next, we have warrants. Where are they at? There they are. First warrant, this is check warrant number 10 in the amount of $119,394.13.
Motion to approve?
Second.
Okay, items of interest, those being over $1,000, include a payment to Blue Cross Blue Shield of Vermont, the amount of $7,127.82. Bennington County Sheriff's Department, $1,802.34. Bennington House of Tile, this would be for the carpet that was installed downstairs. It looks
Yes.
quite nice. That was a good addition. $2,538.58. Capital Tractor Incorporated, $1,112.98.
What was
Now
that
that,
for?
guess what? That was for the tractor mower,
Okay, the mower?
and then it died.
Oh, jeez.
It's gone,
Like dead, like
dead.
what?
I don't know which part exactly that was, to do with whatever it was, the blade of the boom, but I'm not,
Not repairable at this
no,
point?
and then on, Thursday morning, it died in the middle of the hill, so.
But we know that that expense that
That
we're
was
approving
associated with the
tonight.
traffic, with the tractor.
I know, but was that guaranteed in any way? Did that have anything to do with the fact that it's just died?
I have no idea, Karen. Not
Okay,
yet, until
I guess-
Terry's back.
I just hesitate to pay the bill if we're going to end up disputing that in some way, if we just got the thing back.
I'm not certain that this repair that has anything to do with what caused it to die.
Well, that's what I was asking.
Yeah, and I'd have to find out, but I don't think so. This was a part, and what we have to do, but that had to do with a blade of some sort or whatever. What we're gonna have to do is actually take the whole engine apart
Oh, yeah,
to
that's
make the
too,
repair that we've got going.
Okay, so
The motor on the tractor or the
The
motor
actual
section?
motor on, they have to take the front and back portion of the engine apart.
okay, so that's very different
That's
than the
what
mowing
Steve
apparatus. So these
That's
are,
what Steve Washburn
Two
told me.
different things.
yeah,
And no oil?
yeah, so the repair had to do with
I
the
don't
mowing
think it had
arm.
anything to do with
Okay.
it, but let's, we can always
they're-
double
if they're
check with them
splitting that
before the checks
tractor,
go out tomorrow.
Okay.
Would you like?
Yeah, I
Which
would.
tractor
I
is
would.
it?
I mean, I'm
Big
assuming what
tractor.
you're saying
Big John
is,
If they're
that it has to
splitting
do with
that,
the
it sounds
mowing
like
arm, but-
transmission to me.
just want to
That's
be
my
sure.
guess too, so. Multiple invoices to William E. Daly totaling about almost $3,700.
It's gravel and chloride.
John Ray and Sons, 2 invoices totaling just over $1,800. Mountain Air Assessor for August services, $2,078.14. The big ticket one is to Sovereign Leasing LLC in the amount of $90,886.07. Margie, can you,
That's for last year's equipment purchases.
Okay.
For the fire truck and the tandem.
okay, thank you. Sycamore Landscaping for August work, $2,000. Cemetery mowing.
Was that cemetery or landfill?
It says cemetery.
Cemetery.
It is cemetery.
We're done with landfill.
Okay.
Wholesale Distributors, $1,991.20. Do we know what that?
Culverts.
Culverts,
Oh,
okay. And that's it. Any further discussion or questions?
Nope.
There being none, all those in favor of approving check warrant number 10 signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? Motion carries unanimous. Thank you. Okay, this is the Beamer's payroll warrant for retirement, right?
Yes, it is, the small amount,
I always-
130?
I always add, that's what the R, retirement. Payroll
Yes.
warrant 6R, in the amount of $130.37.
Motion to approve.
Second.
Is there any discussion? There being none, all those in favor of approving payroll warrant 6R signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? Motion carries unanimously. Next, we have payroll warrant 6 in the amount of $16,283.31.
Motion to approve.
Second.
Any discussion? There being none, all those in favor of approving payroll warrant 6 signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? Motion carries unanimously. And that's it for warrants. Are there any announcements? Ken? Announcements? No? Carl?
No.
Karen? Margie?
I'll mention again, the household hazardous waste collection is going to be October 26th. We will be collecting bulbs and segregating them from the waste stream for fluorescent tubes, that is. And that's also a free tire day for Shaftsbury and Stamford residents and Glastonbury. Right, did we?
Oh, free tire, not for.
Oh, sorry, it's just for Shaftsbury residents, sorry.
Four.
I always forget.
4
It's-
tires.
Yeah, not to exceed 4.
Off
And
the
no,
rim.
no
4 tires.
rims,
And no rims.
and that's all day on the
Right,
tires.
right.
And the time for the hazardous waste, Margie?
It's always 9 to 1.
9 to 1?
And again, if we collect too much material, that we might have to shut down just to remain within our budget. We shut down on the early side, a half an hour early or whatever.
Yes.
In the paper today, the city manager of Bennington mentioned that they had hazardous waste day coming up and that they were entering into discussions with local communities, and they mentioned Shaftsbury
That's right.
as coordinating hazardous waste days. Are those-
Potentially.
Is that in fact happening, or is that just something that?
It is happening. We had a meeting, just found my notes, it was actually in July, all about the solid waste implementation plan. And the towns are revisiting what was happening in the 1990s, when everybody was trying to regionalize across the state because the landfills were all being closed. And we had a lot of solid waste districts form at that time, but this county did not form a solid waste district. So we're instead looking at other kinds of intermunicipal agreements that we could forge. There's been a trend to fragment the waste stream into many different manageable pieces for end uses. So it's really changed the landscape as far as how we manage our waste streams. And so household hazardous waste has always been a problematic component in that it's so expensive to collect. So we're just hoping there'd be some sort of economies of scale, maybe if we all band it together. May not be possible, but we'll see.
Margie, any other announcements?
No.
I have none for this, at this time. Public comments. Does any member of the public have a comment on any item that's not appearing on the agenda this evening?
I do.
I'm Tim Chris, live on Blueberry Hill.
Okay.
I'd like to talk about the road.
Okay.
We have him come
Why don't you come up so you can take the microphone so everyone can hear.
What's your address up there, Tim? It's
349.
Yeah, thanks.
Blueberry Hill. Last Monday, right in the middle of the rainstorm, they decided they try to grade our hill. I mean, it's bad enough to do a level road in the rain, let alone a hill. And they trucked a lot of gravel up on that hill all day, because they were still doing it when I got home. And they're building this road up. They just put across where my yard is, driveway, they raised me up another 4 inches. I have a paved driveway. I'm over a foot now coming off my paved driveway. Because over the years, they just keep building it up. And you can go up through any of the neighbors. I know my neighbor just had his done a couple years ago. He's like at 6 inches. They were level when they did them. We're wasting the town's money up there just to throw gravel on to keep building the road up. And they don't put no crown in the road. It's almost flat yet. So the water running down the middle of the road. They clean ditches out. 2 houses down from me, they clean the line out on the east side of the road. But you go to the west side of the road, the water can't even come out of the culvert because it's never been cleaned out. I mean, we need to address this stuff. And I don't know how you're gonna approach it. I mean, I don't blame the road crew. I think I feel Terry's trying to do a good job. I feel the road crew tries to do a good job. I don't think this road crew's ever been taught how to run that grader. And that's my feeling about it. They need to learn to run that grader and start using it. You got a $100 and some thousand piece of equipment, you don't have an operator for it. I mean, there's lines along the ditches. The water can't get in the ditch because they don't put their blade out and pull that back in. There's always a ridge. I got pictures on my iPad all up and down that road. You got ridges. The water can't get to the ditches, so it ends up running down the road. And I don't know if you guys got to get an engineer to look at that road and to take care of it, but it needs to be addressed. Because this is an ongoing problem, and it has been, and I know multiple neighbors have been down here, and they've just been, everybody's been brushed aside all the time. But it's gonna end.
Meaning what, to the board or to Terry or to the road?
They've talked with the road foremans before, the other one, and we get shoved aside. And we've been down here before too.
About
With different-
what, building the road up, Tim, or?
Well, just about with how they don't put a crown in it. It runs down the middle of the road and washes.
Yeah, I saw that.
I mean, tell you the truth, the other day is about the first time they've been up on our road this year. They don't touch our road normally. And then they choose a rain day?
Well, I know, you just definitely run a risk. Tim did say he finished up, and he was pushing water.
I mean, they have the weather reports, they should know
Yeah.
what they're getting that day.
I did go up, and actually Selectman Harrington went up. And I think there was a lot of material put down. I'm not sure exactly that it's a foot out of your driveway.
It
But
is in my
but
driveway,
from
but they raised it up another 4
From
inches
the
in my
angle that you have to
driveway.
climb out, it's difficult, for sure. And oddly enough, I was just communicating with the crew this morning, saying that I have been receiving enough public commentary about grading practices that I think it's time to really take the bull by the horn, even if it's, we could have 1 or 2 operators that really think they know what they're doing, but we're trying to bring others along, and so now probably is the time to actually get the hands-on training. I looked at that months ago, and
They
actually,
need-
the man that walked in the door, Keith Squires, had
I mean, I'm in the
recommended
construction
Tom Bro.
business, and I know
Wait
how
a
to
sec.
build them.
Wait a sec. So, I actually have a call in, so hopefully we'll do some training. But having also heard back from the crew this morning, I want to let you know that there is a landowner or two that wants nothing to do with water shedding onto their property. And so the crew stopped on the upper portion of the road trying to grade level to the edges because the landowners kept building up the berms again. So I think there's some history on that road.
Well, it probably is. I
Yeah.
spent money this summer,
Mhm.
and I put a drainage in all along my driveway because
Mhm.
I've been taking water, and I dealt with it coming on the property.
Mhm.
And I take a lot of water on my property, and
Yeah.
I'm okay with it.
Yeah.
But,
Yeah.
but when I can't even go out and mow because they raised up 4 inches. I can't even go out with my mowing deck. I mean, right along all my grass. I try to keep grass, I keep it clean back, but, I mean, I've washed straight down in now, all this gravel they put. My grass is covered now,
That's,
just from this last
Well,
rain.
at least it was a better gravel. Actually, no, Blueberry Hill was the gravel we did not like.
Yeah.
Was the
well,
very
that was the-
sandy, it was a very sandy gravel. We've had a couple of different types. The Econo gravel from Peckham's, I think, at one point. But,
I don't know what was, I had gone up there a week ago at the top of Bennett Hill, and I don't know what it was that got put down there that washed all over the side, but that was, it almost seemed like a slurry sort of stuff. And, it's been an unbelievable year in terms of water and the velocity of what's been coming out of the sky and down the roads.
I don't
and-
disagree, but, I mean, just some of the practices, they gotta get them changed. And, I mean, I really think they need some education on it.
there's always, and you know what, even if the standards they had were in place and they learned, maybe there's better or more, or ones that work more efficiently now. So I tend to be one who believes that you can never get too much education on whatever it is that you're doing, so.
I mean, the hills need a little more crown than the flat roads, because it's coming
Yes,
down
they
off
do.
it.
right.
Yeah,
And-
there's no question,
Okay.
no question.
But I just, this, just building the road up and thinking they're fixing it isn't the solution.
Yeah.
I can't take
Anytime you
being
level it
raised
up,
up much more.
bring it up.
Because I've already pulled back in on my paved driveway now to try to get out. So,
Thank you for bringing this up. We will address it again. The foreman will be back in town, and when, as Margie said, we're taking next steps to begin to try to overcome or use additional training or.
I hope you put something out to let us know what is happening,
Yeah, well,
other than,
We might even have them train on Blueberry Hill. We've got to wait for it to
Fine.
dry out. I'm hoping maybe, well, if we can get Mr. Bro to help us out, then maybe this week.
so,
Have to
you
be
may see
end
that, you
of
may
the
see the
week.
results directly, so. But
Yeah.
we do appreciate you bringing that to the attention. Thank you for that.
thank you.
Thanks, Tim.
I made note, but you got notes on that too, right, Margie? We're good.
Are you from Blueberry Hill, too?
Yes, I am.
And your names are?
Richard and Norma Peebles, and we take a lot of water,
Already.
Water and gravel.
yes.
I got more gravel down my woods than I got on the road.
Jeez. Is there any further comment, or just to add, or just supporting Mr. Chris's?
Yes, well, we do, we probably take water, more water than anyone else on that hill. I call it a hill because I've lived on mountains, or at the foot of them all my life. And this is not the biggest mountain I've ever lived on. But we put a ditch in some 20 years ago because we were constantly getting washed out from that culvert pipe above us. And over the years, with the pounding the water out of that culvert pipe during heavy rains, not even as heavy as this, snow melt from the top of the mountain has gouged out that ditch. My husband's almost 6 foot tall. He can stand in it. You can't see his head. And of course, it is a concern because of leaching of any kind of water through the soil levels. We do have a well we have to be concerned about. We have a leach field we are concerned about. And I go with Tim, there has to be some solution to this ongoing problem. We've been on the mountain 36 years. We've lived with it.
And this year, it seems like,
We're
here,
not getting any younger.
and this year, it seems that the problems that happen every year are exacerbated this year, more than many years.
Our side of the road, everything drops off from the road onto everybody's property, all the way down the hill. On the right hand, that'd be the west side of the road. And on the other side of the road, there's a grade up this way. There's only one house up there. But there's a ditch that goes all the way down. That road, there's hardly ever any water in it. And they've ditched it, you know, they've been up there once in a while to ditch it. It's overgrown, I mean, there's weeds growing up in it, so
Yeah,
the water could even
Saw one.
run if it did get in there.
Thank you for that. We'll add that to the,
Thank you for listening.
no, thank you for coming and sharing the
I
concern.
mean, even the culvert by my house, I had concrete that I poured in there trying to wash, that concrete is gone. And probably below the culvert now, it's probably about a good 2 feet below the culvert, how much water that I'm even taking.
Yeah, jeez.
And I retrenched all of it this summer trying to.
Take some of it away.
Ken knows where the trench, I got a pretty hefty
Yeah.
trench started down.
I went up there with Margie Friday, I think it was Friday, Craig, and there's a few things that can be done that can, like digging settlement holes where the water's running, a lot of water, dig a large settlement hole and keep it clean.
Right,
And you can get the water going there and the solids will stay
right, and the water continues.
and the water can continue. And I mean, a few things, different ways of grading, and I discussed them all with Margie.
Right.
We were out for, what, an hour and a half, I guess. And maybe using different kinds of gravel. Bad timing, put the gravel down when it rained, that's all.
Yeah.
I mean, that's part of it.
Yeah,
I mean, even where mine is, I mean, where it comes out, I mean, I don't care if they throw some heavy rock in that and try to.
Hold it.
Some of the washing more.
yeah. The wash is the tough part, because that takes, he just digs out.
Right, it's just going back in the yard more and more. I mean, I don't care if they throw some 6-inch wrap in that to try to just take the beat.
Hold it, yeah.
Let stuff hold, because, the wash just takes everything away anyway, so.
Right, thank you. All right, any other comment? Thank you again for bringing the concerns. Any other public comment on anything that's not on the agenda? All right, the next item on the report was the town garage status, but I believe we have our first other speaker, so with the board's permission, if we could table that discussion till later.
Larry is not here.
And Larry's not here?
No.
Okay, I'm sorry. I stand corrected. Well, in that case, let's begin the town garage conversation, and we'll go from, and we'll see if Larry comes and joins us.
You want to do it, or?
No, go ahead. Ladies first.
We met last week, had a small committee, a small group, but we've decided to meet every Wednesday for the foreseeable future. 6:30 here in Cole Hall, and we welcome anyone who might be interested to come and help us. We are at a point where we're putting together an informational campaign, I'll call it. And actually, I do have a question for the board, and if the board is, depending upon the board's response, then I will bring it to the committee. We're talking about flyers, we're talking about site visits from the transfer station to the actual site. We are planning to stake the different areas at the future site so that people can actually see the, the projected size of the building, where the salt shed is intended to be, where the septic system will be, the well. Sometimes I think it's hard for people to envision until you can actually be on a site and look and see how it's going to work. And for those that don't know, the site has been roughly cleared, and it is, I'm not good directionally, but if you're at the transfer station and you're working on your recycling, it's way down beyond that, headed towards the south?
East.
East, okay, thank you. And you'd have to kind of go and look over the hillside at this open spot now. One thought that I had, and this was something that we did many years ago, actually, I think when I first got on the board, we did a newsletter, a town newsletter. And we did it for several years, and then I got pretty busy and it didn't happen anymore. But I have heard from the treasurer that in our tax bills, which will probably go out the end of this week, there is only one piece of paper, one or two. And so without any additional cost, we could actually put in a one-page newsletter. And I would propose to the board that, and I'd be happy to draft that up, but that we could talk about some of the things that have happened in town since town meeting, because really the next report that folks get isn't going to be until next March. And there has been a lot of activity in town, and also it would provide an opportunity for the garage committee to have some contact with the community and let them know how far we have come, because we are at a point of looking at a project that is a 30% less than the original proposal. It's a smaller building, a simpler design. We have taken the pole barn out of the project. We're looking again, I think, at a salt shed that is, again, about a 30% reduction in the original cost. Much simpler design. It's one of those kind of hoop-like buildings, like an agriculture. You see them when you go up to Manchester. The Wilcox farm has that kind of fabric roof over a structure. And a lot of municipalities are using that type of facility now to store their salt and their sand. So that was something that I wanted to bring to the board and just get a sense, because it's something that will have to go together fairly quickly, because tax bills, I think Bill is looking for some volunteers to lick and stick on Friday. So he said Thursday or Friday, so I thought I would bring it to the select board, find out if that was a go, and then talk with the garage committee. But it would need a quick turnaround in terms of a draft approval from the rest of the board by Thursday morning. I mean, I'll try to have it ready to go to get it out to all of you. I actually brought some samples of the old newsletter that I had put together back in, actually, a long time ago, 2005 and 2006. But it was just really a one-page and covered, again, a lot of the issues and events that had gone on since town meeting day.
You want to make sure that that's noted, that is a sand and salt,
Sand and salt, yeah,
so.
yeah, I'm sorry, thank you, Ken. And again, and for the public's benefit, we are looking tentatively at a December 3rd vote. Again, that's tentative, because the select board will obviously have to approve all of that. But in terms of our timeline, that's what we're thinking. December 3rd, so it would be prior to holidays, after one, before the other. And the benefit of doing it that way as opposed to waiting until March is that if we are fortunate and the community supports the vote, and we're looking at a project that's a little under $1 million, the previous one was 1.5. The benefit is going out to bid really in the late winter. In terms of contractors, we're hoping with the kind of design that we're now looking at, we don't have a formal design, we have a design that, and I do have those plans to show the board tonight. It's something, we actually have plans from a building that was just completed up in Swanton. And it's very similar to the kind of building that we're looking at. And so again, our feeling is that, and because it is a wood structure, this particular one has metal clad on the outside and on the inside, but the actual structure is wood. So our hope and our goal is that we'll have local contractors that can bid on this. The intent has always been from the very beginning, when we started this many years ago, was to keep as much money in the community as we possibly can with a project of this size. So, but time is not on our side in terms of financing. For anybody that's been looking out there, you're aware that interest costs are going up. We have seen, since we went out to for the vote back in March, we're looking at over a percentage difference in the interest rates. So what we don't want to have happen is that we take a building that we believe now is, again, simpler, smaller, but will meet our needs. We don't want to have to go even smaller because of interest rates going up. We want to get as much for our money as we can. So that's the reason for the, I won't really call it an accelerated deadline, because again, the committee's been working on this for, actually since the first vote went down. We heard the community loud and clear. So that is where the committee is at this point. We'll, you can be looking for us. We're going to talk to the firemen, try to do presentations there. We'll talk to the Grange. We'll talk to North Shaft Lions. And, there will be, the names of the committee members will be in the newsletter if the board agrees, or on a flyer that will be handed out all around and available. The information will be on the website. The tentative plan, sort of again, I'll call it a sample plan, will be on the website. And we really encourage people to ask questions. If you have concerns, please bring them to us. But this is a really diverse group of folks who came together, I think some skeptics, some who have been on this from the get-go, and I think Ken would agree that we really have reached a consensus in terms of what we're going to be presenting to the community, and really looking for your support on that. So, that's a really long way of saying, how does the board feel about the, the idea of a newsletter? And are there any other questions in terms of where we are with the... Ken, is there anything else that you'd like to add to that?
Pretty good.
And Tim is one of our committee members. Anything else, Tim, that I didn't cover?
We're also, you mentioned the various strategies. I don't think you mentioned that we're debating about how to involve a banner and getting. Right. Some of that PR. You have word in to talk to them.
Yeah, I have a call to the editor. Yeah.
I think it's a good idea to put I think it's a good idea to get a letter out in the tax bills. And
Does anybody have any concern with that, or?
No.
None?
Okay.
None
I
whatsoever.
would again, we've discussed this many times, and again, this evening you mentioned that, we had 1.5 million effort, and this is just below a million, but I think, once again, the important thing is to note not the total dollar figure, but what the typical increase in anyone's tax bill is going to be if this passes. And my recollection was that it was perhaps between $1 and $2 a week.
Well,
The latest estimate,
actually,
35 cents a week.
35
actually
cents?
less than that.
35 cents per 100,000.
35 cents per 100,000 in property value. So it's
Less than $1 a week.
less than $1 a week per
Oh, yeah.
household,
Oh, yeah, it
as
was
opposed
about,
to everybody paying $1 million.
okay. So I will draft up again a newsletter, and work with the garage committee on the language that would go into it. But I really would like the board to review the draft of what I put together, because it's going to be fairly condensed in terms of, and if there's anything that you want to be sure is highlighted, it will be a little highlight, there's not a lot of space, but send it to me, okay? And Margie, I would ask you to help me just edit my draft.
Oh, yeah.
Okay? All right, thanks.
Any other actions you need related to this matter at the moment?
I don't think so.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you, Karen, Ken.
Yep.
Tim, for your continued efforts in this very valuable and timely matter. Do we have our speaker here?
No, Larry's not here.
All right. We had scheduled on the agenda Larry Smith from the VLCT to come talk to us about healthcare reform and how it could affect us. Larry's not been able to join us as of this moment. And at 7:40, we have some other speakers coming in. I'm going to ask if the board would support moving item number 10 into the next spot. We can begin discussion of the appointment policy till Larry arrives and/or we hit our next scheduled appointment if Larry's not able to join us tonight. Would there be a
Sure.
problem with that?
Sure.
Nope, nope.
Makes sense.
Better go listen to my phone messages.
Okay, Mitch, do you want to, Mitch Race was volunteered to take the lead in developing a draft of
I hear somebody.
an appointment policy. And has presented that to us to begin, so we can begin discussing this. This comes, basically is trying to formalize the process that we've begun to use, which, as Mary will remind me, that we have done most of the time in the last few years, as you should have. But again, this is to kind of formalize a process that we've begun to use recently so that there's no questions moving forward. Okay, Mitch, so you want to take it away?
Sure. This policy is basically for the Planning Commission and the DRB. The other committees haven't been included in this, but they are more ad hoc than the appointment of the Planning Commission and the Development Review Board. And basically, what I'll do is I'll read through, it's pretty short. Planning Commission and Development Review Board applicants to the PC and DRB must be a resident of Shaftsbury, simple. All interested applicants to the Planning Commission and DRB must be interviewed by the Select Board. This is for new candidates as well as incumbents, and we'll get more into that a little later. Terms of the Planning Commission and the Development Review Board members expires as follows unless a member is appointed to fill a vacancy for an unexpired term. Basically, the term expires on town voting day of the scheduled expiration date of the term. A person appointed to fill a vacancy that occurs prior to the scheduled expiration of the incumbent member's term shall serve for the remainder of the incumbent member's term. The application and interview process prior to advertising, all Planning Commission and DRB members whose term is expiring will be contacted by the town administrator by December 1st regarding their intention to seek reappointment. town administrator inform the select board of all open positions at the second December meeting as an agenda item, and the select board will publicly announce these open positions. Vacancies will be advertised to the community via social media, news media, and the town website by January 1st. Incumbent Planning Commission and Development Review Board members seeking reappointment and prospective new candidates will submit a signed letter of interest to the town administrator by January 15th. The Select Board will publicly announce all interested parties, incumbents, in the second January Select Board meeting. Residents may submit letters in support of or in opposition to an individual incumbent or prospective candidate by February 1st. The Select Board will review all letters of interest during January. Interviews with incumbents and prospective candidates will occur during the February Select Board meetings. Reappointments must be completed by town meeting day each year. Vacancies should be filled as soon as possible. Select Board will announce the Planning Commission and DRB board members by the second regular meeting in March, the meeting after town meeting day. Members' conduct and removal. PC and DRB members are expected to conduct themselves at their respective meetings in a fair, courteous, and understanding manner. Members of all PC and DRB members serve at the pleasure of the Select Board and are subject to removal by majority vote and at the discretion of the Select Board. Planning Commission and DRB members must disclose any potential conflict of interest immediately and shall notify the Select Board if they move out of town at any time during their tenure on a PC or DRB. Reasons for removal may include, but are not limited to, excessive absences from respective meetings, excessive recusals from meetings or hearings, non-performance or other misconduct. Planning commissioners require a unanimous vote by the Select Board to be removed prior to the expiration of their term per state statute. The town administrator and PC and DRB chairpersons will review approved minutes of the last 12 months. I don't know how I got that in there. I must have the wrong version. If a member's attendance or recusal becomes an issue, and report to the Select Board. Basically, it's up to the chairperson of the Planning Commission or the DRB. Operation of commission, board, and committees. Each PC or DRB chair or designate shall meet with the Select Board annually for the purpose of reviewing the stated mission statement of the Planning Commission or DRB and to grant a general overview of the work being done by each board. Each Planning Commission and DRB chairs shall provide their annual report to the town, for the town report to the town administrator no later than December 31st. And that's it, in a nutshell. I tried to put dates on it to be consistent with the voting town meeting day and to give it backed up to December 1st. So you get the ball rolling and it goes quick through December to January. And
That's also tends to be during budget time when there's lots of things going on, so.
Yeah, that's the one,
But that, again, it's.
one exclamation I have in here. It is a very busy time.
But there again, I think a lot of the stuff early on tends to be just general communication, and it does lay out it allows for a timely appointments, which has been somewhat,
Right.
has been a bit of a problem at times, just given some of the lack of that communication early on.
I mean, I'm willing to adjust like I said, a letter in December 1st is kicks off with Margie contacting the incumbents to see if they're interested in being reappointed. And then from there, it kind of every 2 weeks to a month, you have another deadline. And with interviews occurring in the month of February. So,
Yeah, at first I was thinking, boy, when I think of us during budget time and even preparing for town meeting at our board meetings, we're so busy. But on the other hand, I do think that it's, because you can always have turnover on the select board come March first week of March. So it would be better to have the consistency of the same board receiving those letters, interviewing those folks, and that board making the appointment prior to, you know, a new member perhaps stepping on and not being familiar and the whole thing having to be held, so.
I was
yeah.
going to try to do it earlier, but I think if I backed it up too much, it kind of takes away from the voting day, start of the term, and, town meeting day.
Right,
and
yeah,
down
no, I
start
get
of the
it.
term and so forth.
Okay, thank you. I think, Larry? Our next scheduled speaker has been able to join us, so if, with the board's permission, sorry to interrupt you, Mitch, in midstream here.
Okay.
You did a nice job reading that, by the way. I would ask if the board would allow us to table this to a little later in the meeting to continue this discussion.
We should let I think Margie went down to see if she could try to locate Larry.
Okay.
I don't know that she knows that you're here yet,
Yeah.
so.
No, she went down just before you came in. So.
She was gonna try to reach you, I think.
So are we good for changing the order of business?
Yes.
Okay. Larry, why don't you come up and join us? Glad you could come to that. I apologize for being all late. Hey, you're a busy guy today, from what I understand. We're glad that we could kind of line it up so when you were somewhat nearby.
Yeah, it worked out well.
Larry's here to discuss tonight, as a member of the VLCT, coming to talk about the new healthcare reform things that are coming our way, and how some of these changes in the way healthcare is delivered in the state, how it can affect us on the select board, and how we might approach it. So, Larry, we have, just so you kind of know, lay the groundwork out, we have a couple of other members on another topic coming to join us at 7:40.
Sure.
A round number, so, and one of them's here already, so he
All
was
right.
sitting right in front of you, so. So we've got about 45 minutes.
That works.
So,
That works.
there you go. See what you can tell us.
All right, well, I'm going to hand this
Hey, Larry.
presentation out. Hi there, sorry about being late.
It's the way it happens.
It's the real world.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, he's got the Clerks Treasurers Association meeting underway in Killington, and
There you go.
One more, thank you.
trying to fit us in, so thank you.
So, I take it that you're pretty familiar with the healthcare reform and healthcare exchanges and what's about to happen in 2014, and why the state is going down the road of setting up exchanges, or setting up a exchange for 2014, specifically for groups with less than 50 employees like yourself. It's mandatory, or that's the only place to purchase your insurance going forward. It does expand. In 2016, it goes to employers between 50 to 100. And then in 2017, the state's going down the road of the single payer, so it would expand even further. So it would be 100, or actually it'd be all employers in the state of Vermont. At that point, in 2017, would be required to purchase insurance through the exchange. And again, that's going down the road of single payer. That's the road that they're going down. So the way the exchange is going to work, again, it will be open for business in October. When I say open for business, that's when the town would go on, set up their account, once you determine what you're going to fund for health insurance, which I'll get into in a little bit. Then shortly after that, the employees, so you go on as a town, you set up your account. Shortly after that, the employees will be notified that the account is set up, that they then go on the exchange and choose their plan. There's a few ways to do it. You can do it online. So they're gearing more toward the online availability, so folks can go on, set up their account, do all of that online. If they're not comfortable with that, there will be a call center, so they could call in to assist them in signing up in the exchange. And then if they want in-person type assistance, and I'm talking the employees for a minute, if they wanted in-person assistance to sign up in the exchange, the state has funded navigators around the state. And we can get you in touch with a navigator and set up an appointment if you wanted a navigator to come here and work with your employees. to help them sign on.
So they could come right here to the town
They could.
and work with,
Yeah. From what I've been told, it's about each employee, give or take 20 minutes, a 20-minute process. They would want to make sure they have their social security number with them, their dependent social security numbers. Last year's taxes, they would need that because there's a specific line on there that when you're signing up that it's going to look for. So, just bring all of that material with them. They sit down with a navigator, and the navigator will assist them in signing into the exchange.
You said that the town opens an account, and shortly thereafter, the employees get notice of the account that they can sign up for it.
Yes.
Who sends out that notice?
It actually comes from
I
Vermont Health.
have to. I've already got the notice.
Yeah, there's two notices. The one that
Oh, I'm sorry.
Margie's
Sorry.
speaking of, which is a mandatory notice, and that's more of a federal requirement. And then the notice that you're referring to would come from Vermont Health Connect, where you set up your.
So it's not from the town?
It is not. It'll come to the town, and then the town distributes it to the employees.
Okay.
Yes, good question. So, again, I talked about it's open for the employer in October, shortly after the employees. The employees have until the end of November to sign up on the exchange. If they miss that date, so say they don't do it by the end of November, they could potentially be without coverage for the month of January. So it is a requirement for them to go on and do that. So in the exchange, they've set up, each plan in the exchange has an actuarial value assigned to it. And every actuarial value, well, I shouldn't say, each plan in the exchange has a metal level assigned to it. So there's platinum, which is your richest plan in the exchange, all the way down to a bronze, which is your less rich. And then each platinum level has a actuarial value assigned to it. So actuarial value, the best way I've been able to describe it is over a large group of people, a platinum plan, its actuarial value is 90%. So over a large group of people, basically 90% or 90 cents on the dollar is paid for by the carrier, 10% by the consumer, with some caps, out-of-pocket maximum set on all the plans, all the way down to bronze being a 60%. So again, 60% paid for by the carrier, 40% by the consumer, again, with some caps.
so, okay, so you're saying 90% paid by the carrier, 10% by consumer. Is the 10% in premium, or 10% is their total out-of-pocket max?
Total
between
out-of-pocket expense.
Any premium, deductible, co-insurance?
Takes premium out of the picture when they talk about actuarial value, and it's more based on
The coverage.
the coverage.
Mm-hmm.
There's
Okay. Just
Okay,
a
yep.
reading of, all right.
So there's standard plans in the exchange. The standard plans, again, there's those levels,
I got
those
'em all.
platinum levels that I talked
All right,
about.
right.
The standard plans are the same benefit package, same co-pays, same deductibles. Everything's the same. It doesn't matter what carrier you pick. You pick MVP, there's only two, MVP and Blue Cross. If you pick MVP or Blue Cross, the benefits would be the same. The only place it may differ a little bit is the provider network. MVP's network is more regional. Blue Cross's is a national network. Medical management, one carrier may require prior authorization or prior approval for a specific service, and one may not. And the third area that it may differ is the pharmaceutical formulary list, drug formulary list. One carrier, it may be on their preferred drug list, smaller copay, and one carrier, that same drug may be on their non-preferred. So those are the three major, on the standard plans in the exchange, those are the three major differences.
Do either of the plans offer insurance outside the U.S., for instance, traveling in Canada or the Caribbean or Mexico, when somebody's on vacation?
MVP, again, it's more regional. If you go outside of that region, you're going to have to require prior authorization. Blue Cross does have some networks out of the country. It's limited, but there is some networks there. Both carriers, if you go out of their network, there is no benefit. If it's an emergency, however, so say you're in another country and you have an emergency service, you're going to go to the nearest facility and it will be paid as in-network. Okay? It's the follow-up care that you would have to be concerned with.
So if somebody drives up to Montreal and has a car accident, and they're in a hospital there, they'd be covered.
Go to the nearest facility, it's going to be covered. They don't, not really concerned about the network at that point. But they have the car accident, they're in Montreal for, say, a month or so, and they need some follow-up care. That follow-up care may be denied. Okay?
Keith, can you hear okay? Keith represents the Arlington Select Board, so,
Do you want to come up, Keith? You sure?
okay.
So again, we talked about the standard plans and then the metal levels. There's a little diagram on the page, top of page 3, that explains platinum, you're going to pay more in premium, you're going to have less out-of-pocket exposure. Bronze, you're going to pay much less in premium, you're going to have more out-of-pocket exposure, and there's a graph there showing
When
that.
you say you mean the town?
The town or the employee, and I'm almost there, and I'll get into that piece, because there are some requirements of the town that may be a little different than they do it today, and especially of the employees.
So when you say 90% is paid, we're not sure yet whether that 90% refers to the town's paying it or the employee paying it until you get to that point.
Yeah, the 90%, the actuarial value, is more specific to the benefit coverage.
I
and not-
understand the term actuarial, but I don't understand the term actuarial as you're referring to it, frankly.
Okay.
If it's a term of art with regard to the program, then I don't know what it means.
Yeah, it's more specific to the benefits than the premium. So you take the premium totally out of it, benefits alone is where they come up with their actuarial value.
How they're
Okay.
How they're paid.
delivered
Okay.
and paid for.
Okay, so when you say actuarial, you're not talking about how much somebody's paying per month to have this coverage, you're just
Right.
talking about what they're going to get if they need to go see a doctor and they'll be reimbursed.
That's correct.
Exactly, yeah. Perfect analogy. One of the other things I just wanted to mention is in the exchange and part of the Affordable Care Act, it does include pediatric dental and pediatric vision. And they define pediatric, a child up to the age of 21. And it's to the end of their year that they turn 21. So if they turn 21 in February, they are covered for pediatric dental and vision till the end of that year.
But
And that is something new.
But no adult dental coverage.
No adult dental or vision in the
Right.
exchange, correct?
But once they're 22,
Yes,
they still would be covered on their parents' family plan, correct, by law?
yes, up to the age of 26.
Up to the, okay.
Yeah, they define, for some reason, pediatric dental and vision is defined different than dependent coverage.
Okay, so they, more simply put, children are covered up to the age of 26 if they're dependents, but they get a little more until they're 21 based on dental and
Dental and
vision.
vision, yes.
I-
Yes.
Is it true, though, that some of the plans, the dental and vision, would be, that wouldn't be considered preventative with no co-pay, or, that in other words...
Some would.
I had heard at one of the workshops that many of the dental and vision programs will apply towards a deductible.
Yes.
Or towards your out-of-pocket. So it's
Yes.
not as though you can bring your kid to the dentist and assume it's going to get paid for until you've
Yeah,
met
it's-
your deductible, perhaps.
I wouldn't say this should be in supplement of a dental insurance.
Right,
Dental insurance, your preventive care is usually covered in full.
Yeah.
This may be, the benefits would be subject to deductible,
right.
depending on what that deductible is, and paid it with a co-insurance level.
Yep.
Up to the out-of-pocket, so you are correct.
Okay, thanks.
And the vision does cover materials as well, so for glasses and stuff like that. And again, it's subject to that deductible. and
Deductible, yeah.
co-insurance, yeah. So this next area is really where things change, that is different for both select board or for the town, as well as employees. And I want to just spend a minute and make sure that you understand this area. So today, the town, you pick a carrier, you pick, say, Blue Cross and Blue Shield is what you have now, and you pick a plan, and you say, this is how much we're gonna pay the premium, this is how much maybe we're gonna fund in a health savings account or a health reimbursement account. And then your employees go on and sign under that plan, that's their choice, okay? In 2014, you're really, as a select board or town, gonna determine how much you wanna pay in premium, how much you wanna, and how much you're gonna pay toward that premium.
Of a
Of
particular
a particular plan.
standard or
So you may
non-standard.
say, we're gonna pay, and I'll just give you an example, $500 for a single, $1,000 for a two-person, and maybe $1,500 for a family. That's just a quick
Right.
example,
Right,
okay?
right.
Your employees then, once the exchange opens for them, they'll go to the exchange, and they will shop. They're gonna take, if they're single, they got $500 that you guys are gonna contribute to the premium, and they can buy up if they want something a little richer than that, and maybe buy a platinum plan, but they're gonna pay the difference. It would come out of their paycheck as a tax-free, or a tax-free benefit. Pre-tax, I should say.
Let's go
A
back over
pre-tax
that. This
benefit.
is what's interesting me. So, let's repeat that,
Yes.
Larry. Okay, so
So if an employee.
buy up or
If they
down.
buy up, so if they buy something more than what you guys have allowed in premium, and again,
So let's
say it's
say
$500 you allowed, the cost of that insurance that they want to buy is $600, then the employee is going to get, it will come out of their payroll. It comes out of their check as a pre-tax deduction. So they would pay that difference.
So hypothetically,
pre-tax.
all the employees may be paying different amounts for
Potentially.
their insurance,
Potentially.
depending on their personal choice.
Yes,
Well, I get all that. I didn't realize this was pre-tax,
Yeah,
if
it
you
can be done
choose to buy
pre-tax.
up.
yes, it can be done pre-tax.
So it's the same way as if we had done the old cafeteria plan or
Yes.
Section 125 plans?
Yes,
Yeah,
exactly.
okay.
You do, as a group, you can also limit the carrier. You could say, we're only going to allow our employees to buy from, say, Blue Cross, or only allow our employees to get from MVP. But you can't really limit the plan. They're going to have, each employee would have a choice depending on their own personal needs. They may want to buy up, or they may stay right where you set that budget at. Or you can just give them the full rein and say, I don't care what carrier you choose. You can pick any plan in the exchange, but here's the dollar amount that you have to work with.
Why would the employer possibly want to limit their choices from one or the other?
There's really no reason that I can think of. I'm sure the carriers would have 100 reasons. I know Blue Cross is partnering with they're offering a company, whereas if you offered a health reimbursement account alongside the health insurance, there's no administrative fees if you go through Blue Cross, the carrier. So
That's an HRA?
that's an HRA.
That's what we've got right now.
Yeah.
Right.
So you may use, and I'll just give it, you may use Choice today for that
Right, we
Choice
use choice
strategies.
strategies.
Yeah.
Uh-huh.
They're using a company called Health Equity. And if all your employees were signed up under Blue Cross, so this may be a reason you'd limit your carrier if you have a health reimbursement account, there's no administrative costs on a monthly basis. It's all built into the premium.
Now, health reimbursement cost is the money that each employee would set aside specifically for the health purposes that can be used tax deductibly throughout that year? Is that
No.
what that is?
It's employer funded, so it's
Right.
money that the employer sets aside.
Oh.
And you can determine what you want that money to be paid for.
I see.
Is
Now,
is there a chance that we could wind up with one employee being on Blue Cross and another employee being on MVP?
If you don't limit the carrier. So if you give them the full rein, that could definitely happen. And if you had a health reimbursement account, the ones that are on Blue Cross wouldn't get charged that administrative fee because it is a direct feed of all their claims and enrollment. But the folks that chose MVP, you would get an administrative fee for those folks.
The town would or the individual employee?
The town would, if you have a health reimbursement account.
Is there any way that that the town can kind of guarantee that all employees are on the same one without getting into a big hassle?
You can limit the carrier, Meaning you could say, we're only going to allow you to shop from, say, Blue Cross. But you can't limit the plan. They're going to,
No, I wasn't getting at that, but I mean, it
Yeah.
just sounds like it could be a, kind of a paperwork nightmare if you got 3 of them on Blue Cross and 3 of them on MVP.
yeah, from the employer's perspective, you're going to get one bill.
Right.
So it'll
It's gonna
come
be
from
easy.
Vermont Health
Right.
Connect.
Yeah, okay.
And it will, let you know where your employees are at, so you can do your pre-tax deduction if you need to on the premium side. And you could have multiple pre-tax deductions depending on what plans folks are in.
I want to show my ignorance here. I'm not familiar with the health reimbursement account situation.
Sure.
I don't want to take up time if you can explain it to me later, Margie. But if the town is going to be paying for X amount of dollars, whatever that will be, for the employees and for their accounts, why is the town then setting up a health reimbursement account in addition to that? Why wouldn't that, if it's, you're going to send $500 a month for every employee, for insurance, why would you set up a health reimbursement account for another $200 a month for each employee? Why not just say $700 for your insurance?
You could potentially, well, with a health reimbursement account, what is not used comes back to the employer. So you may want to take some risk as an employer and say, we want to pay a lower premium because we know that's out the door, and we want to put some money aside to help pay the medical expenses
And deductibles,
and deductibles.
Which
and
is what we do.
which is what we do now.
Right.
All right, good.
So then on the back end, say, you're probably not going to go through all that money that you've set aside. Now that money will come back to you,
I see.
whereas the premiums are kind of out the door. So it's kind of taking some risk, but there's a good, potential reward.
Okay, good,
doing
thanks.
that.
So is it roll over year to year for the town, or you just get you just
Well-
restart over, level set?
You, as an employer or the town can determine that. You could say, we want to roll over 50% of what's not used, or we want to roll over, you can determine that as a town, or you can just say,
Okay.
we want to start fresh every year.
So right now, for instance, we pay the premium, we pay 86% of a premium for our employees. We also pay the deductible. And it actually has been very beneficial to the town because our employees are healthy. They don't abuse the system. So although we budget for it, over the last 3 or at least 3 years that we've had this in play, that's been a really positive for the town. So the HRA in a situation like this, if we're paying however much we decide, say there's a flat amount in the premium, and we decide that we will, of course, we don't know what they'll pick, but if we just pick a number in terms of saying, okay, well, we'll fund up to X amount towards a deductible and other costs, and pick a number for a single plan, family plan, 2-person. And that money can be identified for the HRA. That's how we can
You
get
could
a
say.
similar situation to what we have now.
You could say, we're going to fund $1,000 single, $2,000 family, 2-person or family, in a health reimbursement account, and we're paying, and you're going to look at the premiums in the exchange, and you're going to say, try to figure out where you're going to fall. So for example, maybe your premium is at the gold level or the silver level, depending on where you
We're in
fall.
between.
So it's between
So-
those two.
So say it's at the silver level then. So you pick your premium, maybe at the silver level, you determine your health reimbursement account, whatever the town wants to do with that. Then the employee could look at that, the premium, how much you're funding, and they could say, well, you know what, I think I want to buy up, I know I'm going to go through this health reimbursement arrangement money. I want to pay a little bit more and get the platinum plan, which that would be their choice, and the difference would come out of their paycheck. But you would still have this health reimbursement account over here set aside for the employee to utilize on those co-pays and deductibles in the platinum plan.
Right.
But hypothetically, if a person chose to do that and their coworker chose a bronze plan,
Yes.
the town might be paying more of a deductible for that bronze plan person than the person who decided to buy up to the platinum plan.
You would want to, as a town, if you set up a health reimbursement account, limit how much you're going to fund on a single, two-person or family in that health reimbursement account.
Right.
So that if somebody were to, say, choose the bronze, your risk isn't much more. You've still got the same amount of risk.
Do you know if the debit cards are going to be available for both Choice and whoever, Health Equity?
They are, yes.
So-
Health equity is, a lot of it is geared, they are, all the claims information as well as enrollment is fed right to health equity.
Yeah.
So you don't have to
yeah.
do an additional
Yeah.
enrollment and
Yep,
your claims.
So they get the downloads directly?
The claims
Yeah.
are there usually the next day.
Yeah.
Apparently you can go right online and if you want
Okay.
to, pay your provider from right there on their website.
Okay. Just for Carl's information, it's interesting, it's, even though we've set aside with the HRA plan administrator a not-to-exceed amount, let's say of $2,000 or $4,000 for a family plan, we each have medical debit cards. So it's actually has a credit card logo on it. And so when we pay off the balance of a physician's bill that is not paid by the carrier, we use that. So we're not getting doctor's invoices directly. To pay.
My only question for that, though, was
Just to
that
let you know.
presently, everybody has the same type of plan, so
Yeah.
the coworker can,
Yeah. gonna be-
they all have the same amount of money they're dealing with. Hypothetically, in this plan, someone might say, well, I'm paying a little more for my platinum, which means my deductible is less, and Joe over here has a bronze, and his deductible is more, so I'm not getting the full benefit as he would, because you're gonna pay more for his deductible than I am, because I'm paying more money. So shouldn't you give me a little more money for who knows what, for my cost of the plan? That's how I'm seeing potential issue. That's
Yeah,
why
I would, as an employer, you're going to want to cap the amount of money you put in the health reimbursement
Right.
account for single, two-person, and family. That way, it is equitable,
Exactly.
going down, your road there. It
They're
would
all
be
getting the
equitable among
same kick-in from the town,
Yeah.
basically.
Right
And
now.
if they go out and choose a platinum plan, and someone chooses a bronze plan, and it costs the platinum folks more, well, okay. But in terms of what the town is contributing, it would remain the same.
Yeah, we'll know what our max
Unless-
benefit is, or max outlay is gonna be.
Yes.
So we
Yeah,
can still
you're-
budget for a max outlay.
Right.
Right, no, I understand how the town is doing, I'm thinking more in terms of morale. Platinum.
Haven't gotten that
Plat-
far yet.
Yeah, platinum is $1,500 a month for somebody, bronze is $1,000 a month. We say, okay, we're capping what we're gonna give you to $500 a month, guys. And the guy getting the platinum plan says, well, my deductible's gonna be a lot less than the other guy. Why shouldn't you kick into my monthly cost for this then, so that I can use some of that $500 a month to pay my premium?
Could be argued.
That's the reason why I'm asking the question, not about the town. But I don't wanna look for problems right now.
So that's really the biggest area that is different between today and going into the exchange. There's some couple of other areas I just want to touch upon, such as who is defined as a full-time employee under the Affordable Care Act. And it may not have an impact on the town, and it may. So under the Affordable Care Act, a full-time employee is defined as anybody who works 30 hours a week or more. So I'm not sure what the personnel policy says today. It may be something you'll want to look at to see who's covered for health insurance reasons. Seasonal employees, if you have any seasonal employees, the definition of seasonal would be somebody working more than 30 hours per week. If they work for 20 consecutive weeks, they would be also eligible for health care for the time that they work for the town.
Could you say that again? Say that
If they
again.
work on average of 30 hours per week for 20 consecutive weeks.
Okay.
And then the last area is if you have part-time employees, that their hours, say, fluctuate. Say maybe 1 week they work 25 and 135, and 1 week maybe 40, but their hours fluctuate, but they're classified as part-time. If you do an average, you have to do a year look back, and they averaged more than 30 hours per week, they would also be classified as eligible for coverage, full-time employee.
That's why we have suddenly a lot of 29-hour employees.
Right. It's definitely what it's doing is you're having to manage the time of the employees to make sure they stay within that part-time, for healthcare purposes anyway.
Right, and not just retirement.
Right. The other area, only because you may hear about it and some other businesses may be doing this, is some businesses and maybe even some municipalities are looking at whether they want to get out of the healthcare industry altogether and just say, you employees go to the market and pick your own insurance, and we're just getting out of the healthcare business. And by doing that, since you don't have group offered coverage anymore, they don't have employer offered coverage, they can go to the exchange as an individual and they could get tax credits based on their income. So I put what the income level is on the top of page 7. So if an employee, they were single, and it's based on their adjusted gross income off from their taxes, making $46,000 or less, they would be eligible for tax credits. All the way up to a family of 4 making about $94,000 or less would be eligible for federal tax credits. To determine what those tax credits are, if you go on the very end of the presentation, there's a few websites, but there's one called, I think, VermontHealthConnect.gov.
It's very easy.
There's a
Just did
calculator
it.
there. You plug that figure in, and they'll tell you exactly what those tax credits are.
For this year,
Yes,
for the 2014 tax year.
yes.
So it's not guaranteed that those tax credits will stay in place at
future
the
years.
2014 rate. Absolutely no guarantee.
Right.
And I'm assuming that's a sliding scale thing, so somebody that makes 46 grand as compared to someone that makes 35 grand, the person making 35 grand will likely
Get more.
will get more credits.
Yes. And the credits do come right off the top. So, for example, and it shows right on that calculator. So if the premium was $800 and the person gets a $400 credit, it's going to tell them how much their premium is going to be, and that's what they would pay, $400.
So this is the part that confuses me. So would the town, let's just say this was a scenario. The town's not going to get a bill at all.
No, the bill
we're
goes
out
to
of
the
it.
employee.
We're out of
The
it.
town
We're
is
out
out of it. The bill would go to the employee, and the employee would pay that. And they can't
Yeah.
pay that with pre-tax money. That's after taxes. Because they're getting
That's right, they're
the
getting,
tax credit,
right.
then they
gotta
can't
be
pay the
after tax.
premium
Yeah.
pre-tax.
Yeah.
So for a tax credit, for 4 times poverty level is it enough to cover? I mean, if you're on the low end of the scale, obviously if you're on the upper end of the scale, you would probably get, but if you're on the lower end of the scale, would the credit cover pretty much the premium?
If you're on the low end of the scale, the credit would potentially cover the premium of, say, the full premium of like a bronze or a silver. More than likely not a platinum, but it would cover a good share of it.
And if the town, it's either one or the other.
Yeah.
They either do it personally.
Yep.
Or they do it through the town with the exchange.
Right.
And
They
so-
couldn't, if you as a town offer coverage, they can't say, well, I'm not going to take the town coverage, I'm going to go and do it my own. Since they have group offered coverage,
Right.
they can't get those tax credits.
And if they do get the tax credits, we can't pay part of their deductible? Or would that be,
You can't, it would be
You
what
have
they
to do
call
it another way.
Yeah, you can't have a standalone health reimbursement account, the HRA that we talked about, because according to the Affordable Care Act, that's considered a health insurance plan, and there are caps on it. The way you do it today, you have a health reimbursement account alongside a health insurance plan, that's fine. But a standalone health reimbursement account, you can't offer.
The
Larry?
employee cannot offer
Or the
or the
employer.
employer can't offer the
Correct.
employee.
Yes.
I'm such a simpleton when it comes to this. If you have, let's say you're earning $3,000 a year.
Yeah.
Your disposable monthly income after all your expenses might be $50 a month.
Yeah.
Suddenly you're saddled with having to go out and shop insurance that your employer had paid before.
Yes.
Now, let's just say it was an 86-14 arrangement, but your hourly rate is still $15 an hour. If your employer turns you loose, one scenario is that you're being compensated at $15 an hour, but you have that additional premium expense.
Yes.
I don't know where's the money come from? I hear this all the time, people that can't afford health insurance, who aren't necessarily Medicaid eligible,
Yeah.
keep wondering, how are we supposed to pay? So it must be, I'm trying to figure out what employers do. I mean, there's always a compensation
Yes. Great question.
approach. It was always an issue with benefits anyway.
Yeah.
Because you're allowing purchase of single, two-person, or family plans, there's not an equal benefit per employee.
Right.
As we stand right now.
Right.
So the one idea that's always been floated around is, do you give wages in lieu of benefits?
Right.
So I don't know, I just don't know how this,
Then that
You could.
reduces their,
You
then that
can do
reduces the
that.
their
tax
tax
credit.
credit.
Great. I
That's
mean, I talk
exactly
about
right.
it in here. So you can do that. You could say, we're out of it, but here's $5,000, and it would have to be
That's going to be
fair and equitable
reported as
amongst all
income.
employees. So you can't, I wouldn't say, if you're single, here's 5, if you're a family, here's 15. Something like that, it'd probably
Right.
be, here's $5,000.
Right.
It is taxable.
That's
So it would
right.
be taxable wages. Could affect your retirement if you say you're through VEMR's or something like that.
Mm-hmm.
Have some impact there. Your workers' comp premium would go up a little
Go
bit
up.
because their wages are up.
Yep.
FICA, so you got to pay
Yep.
FICA on that.
Mm-hmm.
And then it could bump them out of that tax.
Is there,
Let's see.
is there such thing still as I don't know that this is the right term, the health savings account?
There is.
Where if you increase their pay by 5,000, you advise them, if you put that in a health savings account or part of it in a health savings account, that then does become tax deductible, and you can use that money to pay off part of your costs?
Health savings account, anybody can contribute to a health savings account. So if it was employer or employee, it's up to the employee to make sure they're in a qualified, high deductible plan to have a health savings account.
Right, there are only a few of them.
There's 3 of them in the exchange. And there are caps on how much you can put in a health savings account pre-tax. So for single, the most you can put in there pre-tax is, I think next year it's going to be $3,400 or $3,300 for single. And then a family, the most you can put in there is next year $6,400.
6,400, did you say?
Yes. So, and that's in 2014.
I mean, can that be used to pay premiums?
You can use, I think, in fact, I know, it's based on what's considered a qualified medical expense, and premiums for health insurance is considered a qualified medical expense. You could use it.
So hypothetically, Margie, one could do that.
Well, that's what I'm wondering for qualifying.
Yep.
Yeah, and it's only, I can't make the connections right now, but I know in the fine print, it says HSA compatible.
Yeah, there's only 3 of them. There's a silver and bronze standard plan that says above it, high deductible,
Yeah.
those 2.
And
And
then
then
the,
the bronze, blue for you, I think it says,
Yep.
a non-standard plan. Those are the only
CDHP, and that's what we,
3 plans. The one thing to keep in mind is the out-of-pocket expenses under those plans well exceed how much you can pre-tax put in the HSA.
total out of pocket.
Is it possible some of the employees could opt out, excuse me, opt out of the town paying for their insurance, so they can go on their own? And the other ones stay on the plan?
I thought the answer was no.
They can, but they're not going to get the federal tax credits because they have employer-sponsored coverage.
Okay, in other words, the town would have to drop it first.
You'd have to get right out of it altogether, yeah.
And if the
And a lot
town,
of, go ahead.
if the town chooses to basically drop out and say, here, you do it this way, is there a penalty to the employer?
The employer, there's a small penalty. It's a catamount tax. I think it's about $480 a year per employee after the fourth employee, I think is the way it's written.
If the town chose to fund an HSA, is the money that goes into that HSA considered as they calculate the tax credit? Is that considered, no?
No, it's a separate, it's, a health savings account is like a checking account or a savings account.
Right,
It's just that the IRS has caps on how much you can put in there pre-tax and
right,
what you can use it on pre-tax.
right. I just, yeah, okay.
But it does not go, because it's not counted as part of your income. It is outside of your income, so it doesn't go against that adjusted gross income that you're looking at.
I thought we
Okay,
said that
so-
it was.
The
Okay, so
health
it's
savings
not
account
part of
doesn't.
your age.
Right, but so the HSA is being funded through their salary then?
It would be given to them directly into their account.
Okay.
out-
I
Well,
thought
it's
you, I
it's
thought we
like a
just said.
pass-through.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, but is the town having to pay FICA and workers' comp?
It's done pre-tax.
Okay, but
Up till
it's
that
not
max.
considered, I mean, then the town isn't considered as providing some sort of a plan, because
No.
that's a no-no, right?
Right.
So doing it that way wouldn't be,
correct.
but the max we could put in for family is $6,400.
Correct. Correct.
What is the incentive for the employer to get involved in making some contributions when it could just step out? I'm not quite, not that I'm saying that's a good idea, I'm just,
Right.
what's the incentive as opposed to just saying, forget about it, this is too complicated, here's some money, go forth and be fruitful.
I guess the only thing that I would say is that it would be a huge change for the employees, maybe for what you're offering today. So you would be saying, here's what we're offering today, and just totally getting out of the healthcare and not offering anything,
Cold turkey.
yeah, you can definitely do it. A lot of small businesses are probably going to do that, but a lot of small businesses pay very little on their premium.
But Trader Joe's just did this, right?
What's that?
Trader Joe's just did this, I believe.
Yeah, I'm not sure. It could
Trader
be.
Joe's just said, we're not paying,
Yeah.
it's a national corporation.
Okay, good.
Well, aren't we kind of just talking like a dog chasing his tail here? Because in 2017, they're going to go to single payer.
Great question, and I talk about that. So if you do, say you do give them a lump sum, and then we go to a single payer in 2017, single payer, from what I've read and seen, is a tax-based. So it would be like an income tax or employer tax. So if you've given them a lump sum, and then everything changes in 2017, it'd be very difficult to go back to the employee and say, I know I gave you $5,000 because here's the way it was before, but it's all changed, so we want the $5,000 back. So it'd be very difficult to kind of go back.
Even with the HSA approach.
The HSA approach, again, they need to be in one of those plans in order
Yeah.
to get the money, so that's that certainly.
I just want to interject, we're running out of time for this segment, and it's a great one. I
It's
just
very
want to
helpful.
make sure that we wrap up with any last questions we have in the next couple minutes. Sorry to cut you short, Larry.
Yeah, the only other piece I really want to touch upon, and I don't know, if you have 20 or less employees here, and I think you probably do.
Yeah.
Rules for Medicare being primary changes. So if you have employees that are 65 or older and that continue to work, Medicare is then starting in 2014 for those employees going to be primary. So they would have to pick up Medicare Part A and B. Part A is automatic,
Yeah.
B they have to pay for. And potentially look for a supplemental coverage outside of the exchange,
A wraparound.
a wraparound. They could pick a plan in the exchange, but the premiums for those plans in the exchange are more expensive than the wraparound, and Medicare is going to be primary, so those plans in the exchange would only pay as secondary. So it may make
I
more
heard this
sense for
on-
them to find a wraparound or a supplemental coverage. But that's a change, a little bit of a change than the way it probably is today for you folks. But if you have less than 20 employees, which you do, and you have working individuals 65 or older, Medicare is going to be primary going forward.
Instead of the carve-out. It was called the carve-out?
Yeah, instead of the carriers being primary, Medicare
Right.
will be primary, and you'd have to find a supplemental coverage.
How does that work for the spouse if the spouse isn't 65?
Then the spouse could stay on the active plan through the town.
That would be a twist. All right, let's wrap by any last question. Margie, I think you're about to pose one.
Well, I just know we were talking logistics, because I know, Keith, how is your board coming along in its discussions?
Larry's scheduled to come down and visit us first of next month, but we've had a lot of discussion.
All right, so you're going to do it the first of next month? You'll be back down?
Yes. Our only-
First meeting of the
Yes,
next month?
Yeah.
The 3rd?
Yeah.
So if people here had
You still have some other questions?
questions, we
Definitely
could just
can-
go up the road.
Yeah, yeah, that would be good.
Um,
That would be good.
Let you know exact time, I don't remember.
Yeah.
You did a plan comparison analysis
did.
for us.
And I have
good.
these, and
Yep.
can hand it out if you wish.
Yeah.
Yeah, that'd be
Yeah, I
great.
thought I sent it to everybody. Fully funded you did it, we thought it was about 100% actuarial value.
I did two different comparisons.
Oh, okay, good.
I'll give you this one, 'cause I don't think they go side by side.
So is VLCT a navigator?
We're not a navigator,
Uh-huh.
but we're definitely there to help the towns
Okay.
navigate themselves through the exchange.
Yeah.
But we're not there to, for each individual employee.
Yes, I'm just trying to make sure the board gets as much information
Yeah.
as possible, though to some degree that can be overwhelming. And I
So-
want to educate employees to the point where they're somewhat literate, and then we're going to discuss about navigating.
So this
for
really
at least
won't
some.
take me too long to explain, and then I'll be done, and then, unless you have
Good.
other questions. So we'll look at the front page, the very top is what you have for a plan today. And I've put what the actuarial value is of that plan.
That's the 77.5.
That's the 77.5%. However, and that's saying that you don't fund anything to deductible. So you do fund something to the deductible, which makes that plan a little richer than that, but that's what the plan is, just premium, just benefits without any funding. So below that is the platinum plan. So what I did on the first scenario is try to match what your total out-of-pocket exposure, what the town is budgeted today, and then in the platinum plan in the exchange. So today, you're paying roughly just under $100,000 in premium and contributions and all that. In the exchange, if you were to say, we're going to fund at the 90%, you're going to pay 90% of the premium of the platinum plan, you would be just about close to what you're doing today, budget-wise. See where today it's 99, 90% would be 97.
And that, how is the deductible built into that or not, or?
Into the platinum plan?
Yeah,
It's a $150 individual and a $300 two-person or family.
that's all the deductible is?
That is. However, under that plan, preventive care is not subject to the deductible, so that's paid at 100%.
Okay.
Office visits not subject to the deductible. It's a $10 or $20 copay. Urgent care, ambulance, and ER, all not subject to that deductible, just a flat copay.
So just so that I'm clear,
Sure,
our current plan
yeah.
that you have listed up here does not include the deductible, or it does?
I've included how much you fund in
Oh,
the
it
health
does. The
reimbursement account.
99,000 includes
includes
I
the-
see it
the
up there,
26,000.
4,000 and 2,000. So
Yes.
that's included in that, yes.
Yes. Right.
Okay, because I thought, wow, that would be, okay. All right.
So just for an example, say you wanted to get out of that health reimbursement account altogether and just say, we're going to pay a portion of the premium. If you did 90% of the platinum plan, you would be just about equal to what you're doing today.
A little bit under.
Less.
A little bit under.
A little bit under,
Yeah.
okay.
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 And then on the right side, what I said is, if you wanted to make that plan 100%, so you pay 100% of the premium, fund 100% of the out-of-pocket exposure, it would be 124. So what I've done is said premium only, and then the far right, 100%, and you can do anywhere in between, just so you know. And then I did this for every, all the standard plans in the exchange, same scenarios, as well as the one non-standard, which is the gold non-standard plan. And the premiums I use are all the Blue Cross premiums, because they are less than the MVP by a little bit.
Oh, this is great.
So this will give you some idea of, okay, here's what we're doing today, here's what we could do going forward.
This is exactly what we
Yeah.
needed. Exactly what we needed, Larry. Yep.
And then, and I'm sure you have this, and I can hand this to you if you don't. These are all the exchange plans. Do you want that?
I gave
I
them copies
have
last
it.
week
Yeah, we have copies.
on a larger sheet.
Perfect.
Yep.
Yep, much larger.
Okay.
We thank you
Hopefully I
so
answered.
much.
I know there's a lot of information there.
This is great.
You know, Margie has my number and can call if you have any questions.
Very, very helpful.
This
Don't you
is,
think this-
big
Oh,
changes
gosh,
coming.
yes.
That's-
Oh, gosh,
that's
yes.
right
That's-
there.
that is-
Exactly
that's a
what
great tool.
everybody needed.
Like we have tried to develop on our own over recent years. This does.
Well, sure it does, exactly. I mean, yeah, it's very similar to what we've, yeah, try to project it out.
Thank you.
You went above and beyond traveling down from Killington?
Yeah,
I apologize for being late.
Well, hey,
that's very, very helpful, Larry.
All right.
Thank you very much.
Have a safe
I'm sure
trip.
we'll be in touch.
hey, Pollen's is still open for a little bit.
That's all
They have
right.
good pizza slices.
I gotta go back to Killington, so I'll probably
I
grab
know,
something.
I know.
All right.
Safe trip home.
Thanks.
Thanks.
Thanks,
Okay.
thanks again.
Thank you.
All right, our next item up on the agenda tonight is talking about Shaftsbury constables, current and potential future duties. I'm going to let Mitch take the lead on this and kind of give a little background and bring our next speakers to the table if they come
Come on
up.
up here.
Gloria? Good to see you. Thanks for coming.
Hi, Ray. How are you?
Oh, Reg,
Good to see you. Hey, Paul. Good, thanks.
So, Reg?
Good, Paul.
Thanks for coming out, guys.
Okay, Mitch, take it away. I'm going to let you lead this part.
Okay,
like a
well,
different chair.
It was brought to our attention,
The black
basically,
one.
that the current constable really is like a carpenter without a hammer. It's, or a saw or whatever.
No, is that broken?
We are having trouble here, you know?
Just test, maybe you better test it. I don't want the head of our state troopers to go down in Shaftsbury.
That's supposed to have booby
Is it
traps.
okay? We have lots of chairs. Maybe we should bring one from the listers. Yes, it is.
That one looks like a booby trap.
Oh,
It's
dear.
supposed to be Keystone Cops.
I think that's better.
We're getting
We
close.
obviously
I
need
think
more
we got it,
taxes
Mark.
for better chairs.
Careful. There we go.
Okay, I'm throwing this one in the dump.
Sorry about that. All right. Hey, sorry, Mitch.
Well, this started with a call from Paul, and basically, and I've heard this from the prior constable also, that really a figurehead with no authority. It's very limited, and obviously the VCLT, that Margie sent out this little document from the VCLT, talking about the, or VLCT, talking about the constable as an option in rural policing and so forth. And I talked to Lieutenant Treya and Paul on trying to make this move forward so we could have a constable that has a police authority. And Lieutenant Treya stated basically that we want a police department. And I said, no, it's a constable, and he said, tomato, tomato, it's all the same, and it's pretty much comes down to that. Some of the questions I sent out to the board were, because if we do have a constable with a police authority, there are certain training that needs to be done and certain certifications that need to be had by the constable. My thought would be to change the position from an elected to an appointed position. That way we could be in control of who we appoint, make sure they have the background, or we're willing to pay for the the certification and so forth. But I believe what I read in this VLCT is that you can do that, but that we need a vote from the public on that. So that's one thing that's out there.
Well, let me just interject something, and I'll ask any of you to interject if I miss anything. Some of the changes that are brought about this discussion actually recently have been, I think, recent changes to the state law regarding constables and what they needed to have as far as training, ongoing or in beginning or ongoing training in order to have law enforcement abilities. I believe that was a change in statute in the last couple of years.
Yes.
It used to be that constables by statute had many of these authorities that these gentlemen have spent many hours and years and completing, and they basically could do a lot of the same thing, not everything, but a lot of the same things. And with this change in law, without, particularly it's the training requirements, they were no longer able to do that, which led to the, as Mitch very well stated, that there was no longer, they no longer had the authority to do some of the things that they used to be able to do. So that is the reason that that change is what's prompting this conversation, and why we're looking at having to do something different than what we needed to do in the past.
And my purpose here, and I've had this conversation with Mitch, is that if it's something you decide to do, you can, I will help you out all that I can. Getting more police or more law enforcement within the counties, I agree 100%. But I want you to go in this with your eyes wide open. I want you to understand exactly what to expect. One of the biggest hurdles is getting somebody who's already certified, and it looks like you already have that. I propose to go with the appointed position instead of the elected, because as I understand it, if you elect a constable and there is a disagreement and he decides or she decides that he or she wants to do this, as I understand it, the board controls the purse strings. But if that constable says, okay, I'm going to get a light, I'm going to put it on my vehicle, and I'm going to go make car stops, and I'm going to do this, I'm going to go get myself a radar, and I'm going to write tickets, and I'm going to do that, they can. And you can't control that. If they're an appointed position, then you would. And the board and the chairman of the board would be the pseudo police chief that you report to. But it's not as easy as that. There would need to be a vehicle. All of the troopers now, they have these things, they're called MDCs, mobile data computers. Now, granted, having a full-time law enforcement officer is a huge hurdle that you have. And having a full-time law enforcement officer that is working for another department who will then keep up their training and certifications so they can work at that department, even better. Basically, it's almost like you're piggybacking on that, which is great. It's a smart move. But my concerns are, what you're actually really gonna look for that constable to do.
To do, exactly.
If you're gonna
Right.
ask that constable to do patrol work, great. The question is, who are you gonna have dispatch for them? It can't be and will not be the Vermont State Police. We are like at full capacity right now. So you're going to have to work out with either Bennington PD, the Bennington County Sheriffs. I don't know if you'd be able to reach Manchester from here, you know that better than me, and set up a contract with them. Now, the Pownell Constable has a contract with the Bennington Police Department that they dispatch out of. Now, if he can't reach them and on an emergency circumstance needs to go through dispatch, which he has a radio, absolutely, we'll never deny that. But if they're just calling in car stops and wanting to do a record check on this person and that person, after the second time, he's gonna get a phone call and say, what's going on here? When you write tickets, where are you gonna get those tickets? Are those tickets gonna be, they can't come from the PD because those ticket numbers are assigned to them.
It'd have to be us.
What happens if you make a car stop and you find some marijuana? What are you gonna do with that?
You're asking me, or you're asking?
No.
No, in
evidence.
general.
Because you're gonna have to have an evidence room. You're gonna have to have that logged. You're gonna have to have that, those are certain things that every law enforcement facility has all that. And, maybe you have a plan in place for that, The accident forms.
That's why we're talking about this now. Some of the things we've talked about, though,
Yeah.
would be to set up a little box, maybe in the safe here, that the constable and the chair would have a key to or something for evidence, for that type of thing. But, this is what we're doing. We're flushing out all these ideas and trying to make it, see if it's
And
viable
if
going
you're gonna
forward.
be involved in the computer system that the state is on, even though, he's a certified Spillman user and stuff like that, in order for him to use that, I believe in this aspect, as I understand it, you're probably gonna have to get some type of a license from them or some type of certification, some type of allotment to be able to use that. He can use that at the PD, I can use that at the state police, but I can't just go ahead and use that to do,
Non-work related.
I'm also concerned about the personal and municipal liability. If someone is stopped and alleges civil rights violation or harassment or who knows what.
But on the flip side of that, you can get that happen from one of your town employees too.
Constables, current
I think it's more likely when you're in a policing situation and there's a clear adversarial situation that can occur. That's all. And it's a he said, she said situation. And I don't know, maybe it's an issue that more appropriately should be discussed with our insurance, but I don't know. That's an expense as far as I'm concerned, because I'm sure as an agent of the state, you have the state's attorney that covers whatever type of issue might come up for a state trooper.
No, we have our own attorneys within our department. But, another thing to deal with the cost, and, you made a comment, he said, she said thing. That doesn't happen a lot with the state police, and only because every single trooper wears body mics, and every single car has a watch guard video system. So
Good
every
point.
time they hit the blue lights, that turns on, and it's recording. So, sure, they make allegations, they make complaints and stuff like that, but, that video system protects troopers,
Both parties.
99.9% of the time.
both parties.
Yeah, but I'm assuming we're not talking about having that type of a system
Well,
immediately.
I was, if we would have to budget for a vehicle which the town would own, uniforms, radar, that type of thing. And if we got a police vehicle, a used vehicle, they're come up all the time. You can pick them up for, 25 cents on the dollar or less.
The beautiful thing about law enforcement within Bennington County, and I've worked in many, many counties throughout the entire state, this is the closest law enforcement community I've ever been involved in. If Bennington PD hollers for help, they will get all the help from every single agency. Same with the Pownell Constable, same with us. If you decide to do that and your person that you decide is going to be that officer, if they're calling for backup or assistance, you got it. The nice thing about the constable position, and especially having local control here, is that if you do get hit with a rash of burglaries, you can kind of pick and choose when that person works. We want you over here, or when we have a car show, or when we have a fair, we'd like you to do this, or, you know, we want you up there because there's going to be a big presence with the Mother's Day thing that happens right across here. You are able to kind of dictate that, where you don't have that flexibility with the Vermont State Police. When I have a patrol commander and 2 troops on, and I'm covering 12 towns, I mean, I'm no mathematician, but each of those troopers are going to cover 6 towns. And I live in Arlington. I think that we're covered by the best police department in Bennington County, no offense. And, but I will tell you, when there's 2 troops working, I do know how much coverage is actually going on in Arlington. I do. I mean, that's the, you know.
How long since you had a car in Shaftsbury Hollow?
You know what? I don't know. It could have been yesterday, it could have been this morning, and it could have been 2 weeks ago.
Yeah.
You know, we go from complaint to complaint to complaint. And,
Yeah, but I wouldn't think on the average you'd spend a lot of time over there.
nope,
I did see a car coming out of there about 3 days
Did
ago.
you?
you
Yeah,
know.
first
and
time
it's-
in, I don't know how long, but I did see one about
It's
3
one of
days
these
ago.
things, you know, if they do get some spare time where they're not running from complaint to complaint to complaint, they're normally trying to catch up on their paperwork, and then the little bit of time they do get to do the patrol work, it's, you know, it's tough.
So what you were saying is if you could push a little off to the constable that had police authority, there would be a huge benefit.
And we do it down at Pownell.
Yeah.
Maybe we got a mailbox vandalism, and, you know, the kind of the first thing we do is we check to see if the Pownell Constable's working. If you can, now, in that, the understanding is, I'm never gonna sit there and say, okay, we got a really bad domestic case, can you send a Pownell Constable? No, because if it's a big case, you know, we're gonna wanna get our hands in there right from the get-go. But if I can send one trooper with the Pownell Constable backing that trooper up, then that's great, instead of sending 2 troops and now having both troops tied up down at Pownell, and that's it. So, I mean, and that's a great tool that we have available to us.
Now, you said we could contract with the town of Bennington. Could we contract with the state and maybe get for dispatch? No?
And the reason I say no is because right now, I mean, listen, we all know state and town government. It's yes today and it's no 10 minutes later. Right now, we're at kind of full capacity and we can't take on anymore. The Pownell Constable would have loved to have come on with us, but we can't.
Is
And it's
there,
just-
do you know what the Pownell pays Bennington for the dispatch services?
I don't know.
I thought
I'll
the Pownell
look into that.
Constable was actually, I thought I had read this when there was all that complication down in Pownell, that he actually is with the Sheriff's Department, but assigned to Pownell, that they have some sort of a deal.
No, that was Joel Howard. Joel Howard,
Oh, okay.
he used to be the Pownell Constable. Now he's a deputy sheriff. There was an election, and Al LaFontaine is now the Pownell Constable. But he's a certified law enforcement officer, I believe. I don't know if the
Okay, so
full-time
that
or
changed.
part-time academy. But
Yeah,
Sergeant Howard now is just with the
I'd like-
Sheriff's Department.
I see.
I'd like to go down and talk to them. Do you, since 2009, when you were last here, have you seen Pownell move to have to redefine or limit the role of their constable? This was the big stumbling block the last time the board met and discussed this issue, was how to limit the liability for personal safety of a constable that was just a part-time certified position, because we're not always having Paul McGanns available. You know, if you take this step, it's an institutional change, and so you have to look at,
I'd like to answer that just as, I think,
well,
to answer that.
but it was about Pownell.
Well, no, I'm
Oh,
going to
okay, maybe you
answer
know.
community-wide. I've been a municipal police officer for over 30 years, and I've held various ranks. To answer that question is, it's the burden of the board and the people in charge to make sure that the people are well-trained to do the job. I think that the lieutenant would say the same thing of his people. So that's the reason why we have this training year after year after year, those 40 hours of mandatory training. You know, the board has to have a hand in this thing, so there's a communication, so you don't have that problem that you just
Yeah,
had.
but here's one question. If you do part-time certification, it's what, 58 hours or whatever, are you certified to search and seize or to make arrest?
Yes, you are. Yes, you are.
Would we want a
certification is not
part-time
just-
constable to make arrests? That's a question.
His certification is not just with here. His certification is with the Vermont Criminal Justice Training Council. So his
Yeah, right.
certification as a Manchester police officer carries over here.
Okay, I'm not talking specifically, Paul. I'm talking,
Right. And I guess what.
I'm talking, because this is, I think,
Position.
is
It's
an
right in the
exceptional
position.
And
No,
I,
I understand
opportunity that we
right?
have,
So
Paul.
that is-
Right.
we're starting off at ground zero.
Right.
And this is why I'm saying to you, that if we try to mirror another community, that's gonna be a problem, because I think we need to address the community needs here in Shaftsbury, not Pownell, not Manchester.
Oh, I agree.
You know, so it's, what is the benefit of having a working constable
Right.
alongside the state police and the Bennington County Sheriff's Department here in Shaftsbury?
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
part of that is, when you have someone who is local, you know the day-to-day. I know when Mitch is home, or I know when, you know, you're not working, or I know where you live. So when a call comes in and says, I need to go to 370 Hidden Valley Road, I know where 370 is, and I know who lives there. That's the idea behind having someone local.
and to help alleviate some of the issues, I guess I'm looking at this, is that, let's say he does this for 2 years, and then decides, okay, I'm done. As an as an appointed position, you can take the time and find the right person.
Right.
And if you don't find the right person, that stays vacant, and it's not like you're not going to get coverage in Shasbury. Because if I heard you correctly, and maybe I didn't, the concern was that you might not always have him available, correct?
Yeah, he may retire, he might move to Florida, or, you know, whatever.
If I didn't hear you correct, please correct me.
No, that's pretty much,
If you don't have him available, it's just like, you know, you're an employee. You just lost one of your employees, and you're not going to hire, you know, the kid off the street. You're going to wait until you find somebody who you think is qualified and certified, and that you feel confident in doing the job of a law enforcement officer. And if you don't find them, then it sits. And if it takes you a year, it takes you a year. If it takes you 2 years, it takes you 2 years. But within an appointed position, if you do find that person, then you can bring them on.
Now, and also, we could, I mean, you're talking about policies and procedures, pursuit policy, or the DUI, and we can take boilerplate procedures from other towns' constables, or even from the VLCT, I'm sure they have it. And we can tailor those to Shasbury, or what we expect Paul to do. Do we want him to pursue? No, he doesn't pursue. You know, if he calls it in, he says, we got a license plate, he maybe reaches out to the state police at that point and say, we got some guy flying down 7. And that, the big thing, I think, is evidence taking and storing. That's the big one we have right now. I mean, it's outstanding. But as far as uniform identification, he needs an identification, a uniform, a car, a secondhand trooper SUV or something for the Shasbury Hollow people in the east side, up in Glastonbury. I mean, the reporting, we would have I'm sure there's standard reporting boilerplates that you have where you fill in the details.
It's not necessarily just the reporting, it's the reporting program that if you are going to get involved in the Viber system, that you're going to have to be trained, which he is,
Yeah.
and then you have to have that license and the whole 9 yards in order to have a terminal here, and I can't answer all that. That's something that's well above my pay grade and other people deal with.
So would that be the VLCT would be able to steer us on that, or do I have to go to the commander of Vermont State Police or something?
No. That would mostly be probably the, either Vermont Criminal Justice Training Council. Somebody at the academy would be able to point you to who would be able to set you up with the Viber system or the Spillman system.
What is it? What system is it?
The Spillman system. It's our CAD system. It's our computer-aided dispatch system.
Okay.
We're able to enter reports in, punch case numbers, do all
Do you have that right in your vehicle most of the time, or do you have?
We have access to
Yeah.
it in our vehicle, and we can plug in our laptops to our computers, to our docking stations.
And I'd like to interject, there is also another program out there that the Bennington County and a few of the others are gonna be changing over to, and we have already changed, it's called the Valcor system, and that is simply a laptop system. A little bit different than what the Spillman was designed to do. It does pretty much mirror Spillman, but the cost factor is that you could take a laptop, get on the internet, and you have access to that system. So I don't know what what that cost, the difference between Spillman.
It's a web-based system as opposed to
Web-based system, which,
something
you
like.
could do
And in
it
2014, I think you'll see the entire Vermont State Police go to that system also.
Because most of Vermont should have wireless connectivity.
Right.
Well, they have an auction every spring in Montpelier. That's where they get rid of their old police cars and everything else up there, don't they?
Yeah.
Do they keep the equipment in them, or do you have to restock them?
Oh, we take them out.
Oh, come on, just leave one for us.
Like a radio?
Well, radios, computers, all that stuff.
A radio is gonna be, it's gonna be expensive. A portable radio, you're gonna need that also. The firearms training and stuff like that. That.
He's already,
Yeah.
well, he's already got that.
What do you need, what do you need for evidence storage, or,
In my barracks is set up just like every other barracks, but we have a temporary evidence room where all police officers, all troopers have an access card they can go into. So if there's anything missing, and I know if something's missing at a certain date and time, I just pull up the log and say, okay, trooper, you were the last one in there, what's going on? And then anything, that's temporary evidence, anything that needs to be stored for a case or what have you goes into a permanent evidence locker where our detective sergeant is the only one who has access. The troopers don't have access to that. But there's a paperwork trail that follows that, and just like Manchester PD, and just like he's very familiar with, that follows that in, because every time you take a piece of evidence, you need to be able to document that you took it from this place and you put it in here, and nobody else had access to it, and then you took it from here and you brought it back out here, because you're gonna have to go to court.
Chain of custody.
Chain of custody. You're also gonna have to, understand that, when you pay the constable and you want him to work, 20 hours a week, well, some of those hours might be tied up at traffic court as he's testifying on traffic tickets. The nice thing about a local traffic ticket, as I'm sure you know, is that everything except for the surcharge, if as long as it's written under a local ordinance or a local road, everything but the surcharge comes back to the town. So, and I'm sure you get that from the.
How does that work with that constable up in either Danby or Wallingford? I mean, he's a money pit for 3-4 of them up there.
Yeah?
He's appointed, and as an appointed,
But he's working in more than one town.
Yeah, but that's
he
what
can
they-
be appointed, and
could.
that's the difference between being elected.
And he's got an old, looks like a state police guy.
Yeah, we could make a deal with Arlington and have you cover Arlington and this town too.
Basically, when you're appointed, I want to make sure that appointed or elected a constable is only have police powers within the organization, within the town.
Right,
Yeah.
your
I can't-
municipality, you can't go
Right.
into, you can't go up
Nowadays,
into
the process
Arlington.
of the DUI, I can go to Bennington
Right.
if the intoxilizer was down or at the barracks. I could do that. I could take by statute, I could transport someone to a mental hospital. So that's the limitation. That's what a constable has within the community. So that guy, Mr. Tip, is elected in various towns, appointed in various
Yeah.
towns.
Right.
He has that
It's
ability to do that.
intermunicipal cooperation.
What does it cost to, personal gear? I wouldn't put him out there without a bulletproof vest.
No such thing.
What do you mean? Oh, well, I know, yeah.
So, yeah, and just so, listen, I'm not trying to, there's no such thing as bulletproof vests. It's
No, I
bullet-resistant
understand that.
vest.
That's
there's
not-
Right.
knives and some high caliber
Right.
things can go
Right.
through these.
I mean, to be equipped like you are.
To be equipped like I am, I mean, it's years of just physical training to get to this facility. Our department now pays for all of our equipment, but I do know that the vests, for a bullet-resistant vest, you're going to be looking at, $4 or $5, up to, $700, $800.
Yeah.
Just for the vest. Now, that vest, 5 years. You're going to get 5 years out of that, and then you are going to have to get another one.
Right.
The web gear and stuff like this, you can go to Galls, you could probably, uniform, web gear, everything that you need, with the exception of the pistol, you're maybe a couple, $200-$300.
Yeah, but, I mean, all I'm saying is I wouldn't ask Paul or anybody else to go out there without at least the protection you've got.
And you know what? We have tasers.
Yeah.
That brings a whole new meaning to the thing. And you can do what you want on the tasers. I know that, I don't think Bennington has gone to the tasers yet, but these are a godsend.
Oh,
Because
yeah.
when that trooper is all by him or herself at 2:00 in the morning, and you got somebody who's had a little bit too much to drink and they want to fight, it takes the fight out of everybody.
Right, but I mean, for what you guys, you walk up, some guy's got a bloated out taillight.
Yeah.
You don't know what the hell you're walking into.
You're absolutely right.
And I just,
And you know what? We can talk all night long about how dangerous the job is, but,
Yeah.
it is what it is. It really comes down to, sounds to me like you want more local law enforcement in the area.
Well, that's the big question.
So
The
you have
board
three
hasn't, we haven't
choices.
had that discussion yet.
Right. So you have three choices, as I see it. You can have the constable position, and then there's the whole issues that come there. You could reach out to the sheriff's department to try to increase their presence here. That comes with an issues. Or you could petition the Vermont State Police to do a contract.
And no.
I could try it, but I doubt it's going to happen. And I'll be honest with you, what you would pay for us for the contract, you would be able to get double the time almost from the sheriff's department. For the same price. But like the town of Dorset had the sheriff's department, and they were doing, I think, 40 hours a week. We do 80 hours a month. And some of the issues that we heard were that they didn't know what the sheriff's department was doing, and they didn't like paying the travel time because their 4 hours started the moment they left their department, the time they were in Dorset and back. So half hour each way in travel time, they had to pay for 3 hours of work. We do things a little different. And I told them, I'm like, listen, folks, you are going to pay a lot more for us. And basically, kind of what we got was, that's okay. And we've had the contract for years now. And,
Can I ask a question? Anecdotally, I'm sure you don't have statistics, but anecdotally, in towns that have constables, and we're talking about Pownell, so I know they do, may well be aware of many others, how much of the time of that constable is taken up by things that perhaps previously were not taken up by time of sheriffs where there's limited time, such as domestic issues, pets, animals on other people's property? Is it like a gas that then kind of fills a room no matter how little it is, and now you've got people that say, I've got a constable, I'm going to call the constable if you pick up that frying pan or something?
With having a constable, you have a little bit more local control. Like, if you have an animal complaint, and I'm telling you, you call me about an animal complaint, I'm gonna tell you to call the dog warden and what have you.
Sure.
You would be able to then sit there and say, listen, we've had this issue here, we'd like you to go deal with this. You also have the ability to sit there and say, okay, we had this civil issue here, we would like the constable to work on this and serve these papers and what have you. And that's the flexibility that you get there. You also have the ability to sit there and say, listen, the state police have been hammered with burglaries on on one of the hollows. And so, you know what, we'd like you to focus your time down there for a little bit. Or, you know what, we have this, the truck show. We'd like you to work, 5 or 6 hours on that. You
Well,
have
I understand that if it's an appointed position, we can do that. My concern is, though, if you have a constable, again, from your experience, have you found that the local residents are now calling upon that person and tying up that person's time doing things that previously were not really, they wouldn't call the sheriff, or they wouldn't call the state police because, my neighbor's water keeps running on my property and we're having an argument here, or, as I just said, Sally, you just picked up a pan and she's going to hit me, let's call the constable. So and if those calls are made by the local residents, the constable is going to say, I'm not coming, or.
Sally picks up that pan and she's going to get a law enforcement officer there. That's a little different. But, it depends on how you want to set this up. Like Bennington dispatches for the Pownell sheriff. If we get a call, see, the Vermont State Police still cover Pownell. We still provide all police coverage to Pownell. But the Pownell constable will sit there, he'll sign on and say, hey, listen, I'm working today, I'll be in Pownell, and I'm working from, 8 to 4. Great. If a complaint comes in, we believe that it's appropriate for him to handle, we'll call him down and say, hey, listen, there's a vehicle that slid off the road down there, can you go deal with it? Sure. He's going to go down there, he's going to have his lights on, he'll be able to control traffic until they can tow it out of there. Maybe it's a minor accident. We're not going to call him and say, hey, listen, it's a fatal. Now, you want to reach out to the Pownell constable. I don't know if they're able to call him directly. I don't know. I don't think they should be able to. I really don't. Now during working days, if somebody wants to call and call into the town office and you want to get that, then that's fine. But if you're going to do that, you're going to have everybody calling this
That's my
poor man
point.
for
Yeah.
absolutely
That's my
everything.
point.
Well,
The music's too loud.
That's a dispatch.
Yeah, the music's too loud, the kids are running the
Right,
dirt bikes.
and that's why we have dispatch. We have dispatch to kind of filter some of these calls, and we also have dispatchers, our dispatch sends the call immediately to a patrol commander, and then he decides, okay, it's gonna go to this one, or this one, or this one, or we're not gonna go at all. So you just have to figure out
That
a
answers my
system.
question, thank
Okay, I want to circle back a little bit, because I know Margie had some questions early on, and I wasn't sure that you got the answers to your questions, or if we were going down a different path.
Well, they're like big picture questions. I personally, I'm glad that the conversation's come up, because I do think that Shaftsbury needs more law enforcement presence on its roads.
I agree.
And I think that if we went out and surveyed people, that's probably the answer that we would get. Only in that I sat through the meeting in 2009 and heard that discussion, do I have a lot of reservations about moving forward with constable only certification and having that be, this is aside from a certified law enforcement officer, okay? And it was mostly that we couldn't figure out how you were going to limit the liability and the personal safety of that very part-time person. And that elected constables, anyway, so that was at that point in time. So I really think we do need to look, and there's going to be a huge budgetary impact too, that we have to build towards figuring out how we're going to deal with that issue. And but mostly it's trying to get a better sense of, I think it's worthwhile interviewing other constables and boards, and I know Pownell, South Royalton went through this a long time ago. In the mid-90s, they were one of the very first. Just to see how it's playing out, because we need to weigh that versus perhaps an expanded contract with, or if Bennington PD, if they brought another member on, are we better off having rural policing through Bennington PD? And I don't know, we don't even have the answer to that. We wouldn't, so I think it's a very complex question, but
I'm sorry.
That's just me, because I tend to always see the big picture first. And if there's a faster way to the objective to get there that makes people feel that we're reasonably dealing with some of these uncertainties, then I'm all for it. But that's all. I just wanted to.
I could probably get the Wells Constable down here.
Well, in 2009, remember that we were dealing with two individuals who had a lot of desire and had no training whatsoever. And they would have had to have started right from scratch.
Exactly.
The biggest hurdle that
Exactly.
you have,
Yes.
you don't have in 2013.
Right now, right?
Correct.
With Paul's presence.
Sure. And in 2017, when he decides to move on, you could look for another
Oh, would be
certified
another
law
town
enforcement.
employee.
Right.
No big deal.
And, you know, even if you decided to reach out to Terry Aiken in 5 years, now Terry Aiken was a certified law enforcement officer. I think he can try to get his certification, you know, back on a waiver and stuff like that, but he was a law enforcement officer. So, I mean, there are avenues that you can look at to get another certified law enforcement officer here. I mean, the 2009, I was here to tell you that, listen, it's great, I think it's a great idea, but you're not ready for it. You are more ready for it now than you ever were back in 2009.
Oh.
It's just, do you want to?
It's circumstance.
Yeah, and quite frankly, I know Al LaFontaine could probably provide a lot of information, and maybe even the chairman of the Pownell Select Board. They have had a constable down there doing law enforcement duties for many years. There's a reason why. And
Right.
they still have it. It's working for them. And it might not be a bad idea to look into that and see all the benefits, because I can't tell you all the benefits that the town of Pownell get because of the constable, because that's not something that we're engaged
What's
in.
Arlington doing?
Arlington has the Vermont State Police. Now, they also contract out with.
Contracting with VSP?
No, they have.
Just
We are the
relying on-
We are
okay.
the primary coverage,
Yeah.
but they also have the Sheriff's Department as a contract. I see them there all the time. But I will tell you, I have heard deputies sign on. I'm in Sunderland and Shaftsbury tonight. So, you know, I think they split up, but I don't want to speak out of turn on that, and that's something that Sheriff Smith would be able to speak of more, or, you know, some of his commanders. But, you know, the biggest complaint is, you know, when you contract out, is the town wants to know, what are we getting for our money? Now, in the town of Dorset, Reedsboro, and Rupert, for example, every time the police officer does a detail in there, whether it's Rupert's 2 hours, Reedsboro's 2.5 hours, and Dorset is a 4-hour shift. You go and you do a 4-hour shift in Dorset, you have to fill out an officer activity report. How many tickets you wrote, how many warnings you wrote, did you process anybody for DWI? There's a little comment section. How many, you know, what cases did you go to, the whole 9 yards? You sign that, date it, and you send it in to the patrol commander. The patrol commander takes all of those at the end of the month, and he says, and he submits a report to me saying, we did 80 hours of work, we did 75 traffic stops, we wrote 47 tickets, we wrote, you know, 60 warnings for a total of $3,462, and then we handled these cases. And then I take all that information, I put it in a letter, on a letterhead, and I electronically send it to the town. And they can sit there and say, you know what you paid, you know what you got for your money for in June? Right here. This is everything that they did. And so they know exactly where their money is going. The town of Dorset allots $50,000 a year for the town contract. You would blow me away if you told me that the expense of the Vermont State Police even came close to $50,000. Because it doesn't. Because in a contract, at least with the Vermont State Police, you pay actual cost. If I'm working it, you're going to pay a little bit more than if my youngest trooper is paying, working it also. But if I'm working a 4-hour detail and I write 2 tickets, well, the money from those 2 tickets, you're gonna get all that back except for the surcharge.
Right.
So if you have a constable and he writes 10 tickets a week at the tune of, $1,000, because that wouldn't be unheard of, and you're gonna get all of that, I mean, it would be hard pressed for me to think that that he's not going to pay for his own salary. That would be, but is that what you want? Do you want somebody out there writing tickets? Do you want somebody, or do you want, I mean, the town of Dorset, they're not concerned about the ticket. They want us on the back roads, driving around, preventing burglaries.
They want a presence.
Exactly, they want a presence. I think if I submitted a town recap and I said, listen, we wrote, $500 in tickets out of the whole month, they'd be like, okay.
So.
Well, and that was when we first went to the contract with the sheriff's department. That frankly was where the select board at the time was coming from, that we were not looking at it as a revenue maker. It was,
I don't think we
you know,
are now
security.
either,
No, I don't
per
think-
se,
I certainly not.
But it's just
Right.
a benefit of having that
Yeah.
police authority, that constable with police authority in
We have the
town.
ability to do it if
Right.
it's
Yes,
necessary.
now, so for next steps, well, we'll try to summarize here. We could, what would you say would be the best way to move this forward in a, not a rapid manner, in a manner that makes this happen? Number one, we've got to change from a 1-year term to a 3-year term.
Or,
Elected to an appointed, which would be, we have to have a vote coming up in December. We could pose that to the people then. And that could be just
December?
And then from there.
December or March.
Yeah.
Yeah, you're pushing now, but no. No, but yeah, it would have to be, at some point, there would need to be a vote, whether it's December or March or other.
I mean, we got a special vote, we might as well get the most out of it we can.
the expense of your meeting is going way up, Mitch.
Well, we need identification, uniforms, transportation, and communication.
Evidence lock.
And, that's an evidence, but those are the 3 major ones. The evidence, we would have to come up with some sort of way to maintain the integrity.
I think that's all really just peanuts really here.
Yeah.
I mean, getting a safe, peanuts.
Yeah.
You want to go to Galls, you want only fully equipped 1 officer and stuff like that, peanuts,
Mhm.
really, when you talk about it. I think the big thing is, if you don't get it appointed, if you don't get it changed from an elected to an appointed, then it's up to you, but I think that it should be dead in the water right there.
Right.
Because, I mean, and so if you can't get over that hurdle, no sense doing the other stuff. Get that hurdle done, and then let's say, you know what, let's say you all have an epiphany, you sit there and say, you know what, I don't know what we were thinking, yeah, we're not gonna do that. Okay, you haven't hurt yourself by any stretch of the imagination by going from an elected to an appointed. You will still have control over that constable, even though he's appointed, and you decide not to go with this program. You're no worse off than you are right now. But you've started at least putting yourself in a direction where, I mean, let me be perfectly clear. In 15, 20 years, could I see Shaftsbury having a small police department? Sure, I could. I mean, 15, 20 years from now, we're only going to get bigger. We have a lot of influence from outside the state of Vermont. So if you put yourself in a position where you're able to, when you're ready to pull the trigger, literally, you can. But, the first step is go from an appointed to an elected to an appointed.
So, I'm sorry, why would it cost more to put that question on a?
Oh, anytime you add items to the ballot, you're increasing the expense of the special election. And
Yeah,
it's not going to be, it's not thousands of
No, it
dollars.
wouldn't be that much.
But it's just something, this would be an unbudgeted expense.
Well,
So,
the
that's all.
special election's an on-budget expense.
Right.
Correct.
That's right.
So, I
But
mean,
adding an extra question just makes it a little bit more expensive.
Well,
That's
the
all.
interesting thing,
But I
though,
don't-
is that if we played it out, if we did have that on the ballot in December, that would actually help the budgeting process, because at that point, if we have an appointed position, we can actually have the discussion of, how much are
Removing the
we, how
sheriff's
much are we gonna
expenditure.
fund this? Because if we put it on the ballot in March, we're either building the budget, with the
Sheriff.
thought that, well, we may get this, and so we need to up that budget and maybe revise the sheriff's. I mean, there could be a lot more confusion around budget season if we did not know whether we were going to end up with an appointed position or an elected come March.
2009,
Right,
I
right.
think, if my memory serves me correctly, each constable, or maybe the total constables, had a $200 budget?
That's right.
Okay. I mean, so, right there, you have $200. There's your uniform and what have you. And if you decide to sit there and say, you know what, instead of what we're paying for the sheriff's department, we want to put towards the constable, there's a,
Well, that's, of course, that's what sort of has been in my mind,
Yeah,
but,
that's what I was
Yeah.
thinking. I mean, we
Yeah.
spend almost $20,000 a year for the sheriff.
and
Yeah,
here's
but
the-
you can't do without traffic control.
Well,
As
if you have
well.
a constable, we
well, if you have a constable, we've got the sheriffs for how many hours?
Okay, I think you're gonna have to decide what this person's gonna have to do.
They're not going to be available 7 days a week, 365 days a year. Obviously, you're going to need backup.
Well,
And
and
ju-
neither
just
is
so
the
we're
sheriff's
clear,
department.
if
We
you,
have them
I
for
mean-
what, 15 hours a week, I think?
well, let me ask you a question. The sheriffs that come in here, are they all full-time certified law enforcement officers?
I don't know,
Exactly.
That's a good question.
I don't know.
No.
You would have a full-time law enforcement officer certified by the Vermont Criminal Justice Training Council the entire time. I'm not trying to, listen, Chad Schmidt, I work very good with him, and he has an excellent agency, so I don't want anybody to think that I'm trying to get the sheriffs out of here. I want more law enforcement in here, so I want you to keep the sheriffs, I want you to bring on, Paul, and I want you to put, 4 or 5 people under Paul's command. I would love that. That's where I'm at.
Not gonna happen,
So
Rich.
basically, we reduce the sheriff's hours if we get if we get this to go through. We reduce them, so they are there if we need them for 10 hours a week or whatever.
Or you.
That's all they are,
Are
Pardon?
we down to 10?
10, but we get an extra 10 with a grant, which expires
I thought
this
we were up
December.
to,
Runs out
weren't
in
we up to
December.
30 hours?
No, we
We
started
did
off.
a-
with
we did
Weren't
a-
we up to 30 hours when they had all the break-ins over here?
No.
Well,
For
no.
a very
no,
short time,
no, not
and it
30, not
expired-
30, not 30.
expired in
We went up to
early
20, I
January.
think.
But what's happening here is we need to, as a board, decide if we're ready to, or if we're going to make a change and change the way we're doing it. And possibly that it may be also a philosophical change that we bring to the town to see, would the town, do they want and will they support an expanded presence of law enforcement in the community? We may very well find, we have heard from members of the community that they would like to, they like having the police presence, if you will, that we have now. We're beginning to hear rumblings for some of the things of, which Karen was a direct victim of, of increased crime, breaking and enterings and stuff that we saw earlier on. The town, we need to ask the town, all right, this is something we can do. Are you willing to back it and support it? Both, with, saying you want it as well as finance, and finance it. Those are the things, but we're building towards asking that question.
Okay, I'll make a motion that we put on to the December vote the question to the townspeople whether they would like an appointed or an elected constable with police authority.
I think that you would,
Do you have a
I think we want to
December
have
vote?
that
I
on an
guess the-
agenda
the
item
one-
before we
the
start
one-
doing
Oh,
that.
okay.
no?
Yeah, I think we need to be careful about because this select board hasn't even taken a
Discussed it.
vote that we're going to have a December
Okay.
vote. That's the
Well, then-
goal of the garage committee, that we would want to do it then.
I
But
think,
I hear what you're saying,
yeah, I
Rich.
think you're going the right direction, but Karen brings a good point, is that we have to, procedurally, we're having a discussion tonight. You have to, you need to bring it forward then as another discussion item as we
Yeah.
move forward. And, with it at that point, allow the community time for some input and that sort of thing. You have to go through the process to get there.
Yeah, I think the community would want to offer some opinions on it, whatever they may be.
Fine
You know
with me.
what? Give me a little blurb about that big for the newsletter that's going to go out on Friday. Serious, I'm serious.
I can do
You
that.
know, that this is that's in my notes for one of the issues that we want to bring to the community.
Okay, we're, just as with our last presenters, we're running into the end of the time, and I'm wondering if these gentlemen have had dinner. I know my belly's getting a little hungry, but that's just bad planning on my part. Or you're going to work, so
I have one last question, and Paul, we keep talking about, you know, we'll lessen the amount of hours from the sheriff's department, and because we have this constable. You do work. I mean, you have a job up in Manchester. So I guess the one question that I have is, do you see yourself as having, you know, a number of hours that would be reasonable for us to make all of these changes? And how would you see that playing
You
out?
know, it would depend on what it is the board and the community wanted of their constable. I can't answer that. If I can't answer if you're saying we want somebody present during the day when the school is open, I can answer that. I can say, yes, we can have presence there, added on top of what the state police and the sheriff's department provides. If you're saying that you want a constable that at some point in time will take over what the sheriff's department does, if you're going to appoint constables, you could have 2 appointed constables. So out of the 2, they could be able to take over that kind of responsibility. All I'm saying is that it would be local.
Right.
Okay, so,
Yep.
you know, and I'm not saying to you that if the town said we want 40 hours of coverage, that you couldn't do it, but at least you would have control over what is being done, who's doing it, and where these people are, as the lieutenant said.
Yes. Okay, thanks.
Any other questions before we let these gentlemen take off into the night?
The only other thing I could think of, Craig, would be like Lieutenant Treya said. When they were working in Dorset, on a 4-hour shift, you're losing an hour in travel. And it's not the same with the sheriffs from Bennington to here, but it's still time when they're coming from Bennington to here.
Right.
If you have a constable here, he's here. He ain't got to travel anyway.
It's a benefit.
You also have ownership here with the constable. I mean, I'm not talking with the board, I'm talking with the people.
Community.
He's one of the individuals in the community.
Yep.
You're gonna see him, even on his time off, you're gonna see him at the store, you're gonna see him, you know, around town, and you know what, even though the constable's off duty, when he sees, you know, these kids hot rodding and up and down, he's gonna sit there and say, okay. And when he's on duty and he sees those same kids, he can sit there and say, listen, this afternoon, you know, I saw you horsing around, knock this off, or else. And it's just, you know, they're more likely to respond to somebody in the community that they're going to see time after time after time than, you know, somebody who just happens to be passing through.
Anything else?
So
Thank you.
So what are the next steps, besides this letter to go out? I mean,
What we'll need to have is, we'll need to add as, you know, basically an agenda item, another, I would say, where it'll be a warrant item, where it'll be the discussion of. I mean, it may, you know, at the first meeting in October, you may have an item on the agenda where, and the board discusses it and decides at that point, we're moving forward. It could be as simple as that, but it's, and then, you know, from there, leave, you know, so we're going to pose a ballot item, whenever the date might be, whether it's March, whether it's December, et cetera. Or you may decide at that meeting that there's enough feedback from the community that they want you to look at it more, that you'll proceed based on the input.
Okay.
The only thing I'll throw out to you is if you do have a meeting with the community, and you would like somebody there to answer questions from law enforcement, you know, if you want somebody from an outside agency, just give me a little bit of heads up, and I got no problem attending.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you
Appreciate your
very
time.
much. And thanks, Mitch, for all your work
thank
on
you.
this. I mean, I would suggest we get the language that we would need, too, for any ballot article.
It's gonna go in the
Policy
trash.
procedures?
No, for ballot article.
Okay.
If we're looking for a
Okay.
wording would be.
We were actually in the midst of looking at the appointment policy, the first draft. I was thinking that we've got just a couple more items on the agenda tonight, although one, we do have an executive session that will take a few minutes of time. I'm wondering if the board's pleasure, if we want to take up a few more minutes of discussion on the appointment policy, because I'm personally not feeling that we're probably going to resolve it all this evening, or if take it like a first reading and then come back and attack it at a future date and begin looking at language changes. I guess I'm just asking the board's opinion on what they want to, how they want to proceed this evening in detail or time format on that project.
I personally would prefer to have considered a first reading, because I read it only briefly before, and would not be prepared to make suggestions tonight.
Okay.
I would.
I would go along with that.
Okay, Karen, your thoughts?
Yeah, no, that's fine. That's fine.
Mitch, your thoughts? I mean, you drafted it, so you know what it says, so.
I saw a couple changes I had to make too while I was reading through it.
So, with that in mind, I think, and given the fact we've been here a couple hours already, I think I'm going to make the suggestion, or I'm going to go with what I'm feeling is a consensus and actually consider this a first reading, if you will, and actually suggest that it's put on agenda to further discuss at a future date. Near future, I would suggest.
Agreed.
Before
Okay.
December 1st.
Mm-hmm.
I'd like to go back, or maybe I'll wait till other business. Okay.
What's that?
No, I'll wait
Okay.
till other business.
Okay. The next item is we'll wait for, Margie's keeping the heat in the building because we actually may need it tonight. I think there is a frost warning tonight.
Frost warning.
Yeah.
I gotta go
Freezing.
grab up my
In
orange.
places,
Yeah.
Yeah, so it's going to get chilly in places.
Not in
tonight.
Miami, but here.
Yes.
that's all right, my pellet stove will take care of it.
Yeah. Next item on the agenda then is our
I
town
had the wood burn
administrator's
this morning.
report. So Margie, what do you have for us this evening?
Oh, oh boy, I don't know where to start.
Many things.
Well, I just want to give you, a quick rundown, and I can do it by what's in front of me. Okay, I will be calling VTEL to see when they can get here, if they agree to,
good.
they're going to continue moving forward with their application. I will be meeting with BCRC, the Regional Planning Commission, and in a small meeting with their regional planner and Pownell to further discuss household hazardous waste collections that are upcoming on October 26th, but also with an eye about moving forward. I don't know when the next regional meeting we have yet. It was going to be September sometime. And so there's that. As you know, the Watson complaint went to our town attorney. That has been, he has been served notice. I have been reviewing resumes and applications for the administrative assistant position, and also going back over the people that have been interesting in July in the recording clerk's positions. And I'm getting back to people I'm hoping to interview with 2 candidates possibly Wednesday morning.
Is this a candidates that may handle both positions?
No,
Okay, 2 separate. Okay.
but I'm debating about how we're going to better address the fact that recording clerks will address the fact that they turn over constantly, and unless they do a really good job, they're more work than they're worth. So archiving and documenting and managing public records is a very important function of what we do. And if there's more incentive to do that when you have more investment in the town and you're actually here during the day as well, that might work out better for us. So, and with the Planning Commission's recent plea, or actually the zoning administrator's plea for the fact that planning zoning needs more administrative help. I don't think there's a lot of room to play in this particular budget, but I'd like to try to see if we can do something with that. So, but some interesting qualifications of people that have come forth. With that part-time position, you tend to find people that might have had difficulty getting employment or that really are retired and want a new phase. So that's been taking a lot of time, and I'm waiting to see what we come up with for closing out the equipment funding for the Dodge Ram. That still has not been put to bed.
Might it be a good idea, might it be a suggestion that we look at a different lender, or are these problems?
We can't. It's going to end up being that we may lose the truck off the lot, and that we end up having to get a different truck.
No, but I'm talking in the future. Are the
Oh, in the
problems?
future?
Are we looking, is this a problem with the vendor selected, or is this a problem of the process as a whole?
I think it's reflective of the bank that they went to. The lender had a the credit approval process this time around was more difficult by far than last year's process. Whether or not it's this particular leasing company, that agent that we're dealing with, I'm not exactly sure, but we did have difficulty with them before. That we had 3 banks that we cascaded through before they found a bank that was going to deal with the fact that we aren't audited every year. Anyway. So that's about it in a nutshell. We've got a lot of miscellaneous issues hanging out there, and I think it's time at some point to coalesce. I can do that for your next meeting. But I just wanted to see how we're settling out on the board level with the election and what the garage committee meeting is doing.
Those are some big items coming up.
Well, and Twitchell Hill, too. I think we need to resume. It's been 3 weeks since we've met with the road foreman, and I think we need to touch
Right,
base again.
right.
I think we have some big highway matters to address before we close the construction season. And the fact that we still have equipment that's down.
Yeah.
So, that's it. Okay.
Any questions for Margie?
Yeah, any questions?
What is I thought we had that all settled on that truck. It was all paid, the loan was paid for or signed for, and
Well, I hope so. I hope that the check actually, it was all set up to be electronic payment, and then for some strange reason, a check was sent and some other check had to be voided. I didn't want to know the logistics because I just was
A lot of times when they.
about ready to,
This is
A lot
the
of
lease
times
thing,
when you
right?
set up an automatic deduction, they
this is the
tell you
leasing
to send
company.
a
I think they're
voided
just
check.
overwhelmed.
Is that what it was? A lot of times when you set up an auto deduction, they send a check, voided check, so they can get the right routing transit, make sure they get
Oh,
the
you mean
right.
for like
so
a
they don't-
dollar?
I
or
can't
so?
figure out if, it just might be that the person I'm dealing with doesn't have the experience that's really needed. So
So we're talking about a procedural hiccup or a substantive hiccup?
I think, well, a lot of it's procedural.
Okay.
At the level, not even past our leasing company, at the actual bank that's doing the financial transaction. Not good. I know, I almost got writer's cramp signing various documents, you know.
Remember, yeah.
It's
so
just
that,
silly.
that includes what, now that's the truck, the body, the sander, and the plow, and the whole package.
Is the problem just with,
That does not include the plow. It's going to include the body and the sander.
this,
He's just going to go out and buy a commercial plow. I'll double check, Ken.
They can't use the plow that's on the truck that they're replacing?
We have to wait until he gets back Thursday.
Bureaucracy.
bureaucracy, it's a beautiful thing. Okay, other business. Ken?
I don't know if you take a motion on this or what, but it's my feeling that that ditch on Twitchell Hill between house number 150 and 252 should be paved ASAP.
Yep.
I went up there on 2 of those last big storms, Craig, and it's just getting worse and worse.
It is getting
and
bad.
worse. And it's gonna get to the point where you're gonna get into a major something if you don't fix it.
Well,
Is the fix you're proposing a patch
Hey,
kind of fix or a
No,
permanent
I
fix?
say start right at 150.
No,
And
no, no, no,
everything-
I'm talking about, is it something to take care of preventative, but it isn't a permanent fix?
It's
Or
gonna
you
be as
think it'd be a
permanent as you can
permanent?
get.
It's as permanent we can get.
I say it is.
What's
Start right at the edge of the blacktop on the east side of the road and go right down through the whole ditch, all the way up, everything they haven't paved,
Is that on the, what, east side of the road?
east side.
Yeah.
Right-hand side going up.
Resurface.
Is that basically from below, somewhere below it?
Brilliant. Where the settlement, where the catch basin is on the left-hand side, and the culvert goes under the road, from right there, all the way up to, the number's 252.
Almost to Babsy Lane. Almost to Babsy Lane.
Couple houses shy of that.
Yeah, I mean, it's close, but, yeah.
Yeah, it's, and I wouldn't be opposed to going up to where them sandbags are either.
Right. Do we know how much that's gonna cost?
Yeah, that was my question.
I thought he had a price on that once.
Oh, did he give it to you? Was that the meeting where he
I thought
gave
they
you
had
an
an
estimate and
estimate on how
handed it
much
to you?
blacktop that was gonna
He, Terry presented to us the cost, I think it was the section that you're talking about first. It was fairly small dollars. There's labor time, but the material cost, seemed to me, was gonna be like a couple grand tops.
Yeah, I mean, I don't see any way, I think you've gotta do it. I don't, you're just, it's just gonna get more and more and more expensive.
Are we within our right of way there, or are we going on
No,
anybody's property?
you're not gonna, I wouldn't say get out of anything with this, just stay right where you are.
Will that cause faster water to go south of where the
It's
where the
It's
blacktop
gonna
ends?
stop, no, it's gonna go right where, it's just gonna go faster.
Yeah, but if it jumps
It's,
the bank and
if you start right on the edge of the road, Mitch, where the existing pavement is, and go from there down in the bottom and up the bank, so that it'll stay in the ditch, it's the only thing you can do.
What it'll do, you're right, it will, the speed of the water will increase, but in that area there, I believe there's infrastructure to handle it. That last drop at the end by the Sky Lane, I think
Yeah,
is where,
Sky Lane.
that's where it drops through.
Sky
There's,
Drive.
where it
Sky
goes down
Drive.
off into the
Yeah.
That's a stone ditch.
Yeah.
But basically, what this plan would do would probably, in that area, would pretty much eliminate the degradation of the ditch. It's gonna it's gonna take the water away as opposed to bringing the dirt or the earth with it.
Well, it's also gonna prevent the undermining of the road,
I
right?
mean, what it's doing now is just, it's undermining everything and cutting here, and it's going where it wants to.
Right.
Ken, not a question, respectful, but is this your opinion, or is this something that you've discussed with other people? I know we had the engineer's report, which in my opinion was not very substantive
Carl,
at
I've done
all.
this long enough, I have to ask nobody.
That's all I'm
But
asking.
Terry had confirmed this, I think.
He's
I don't
in
see
a,
it.
as-
No,
as
I'm
the
just
fix.
asking, as opposed to just saying, we should do it now, I want to know whether or not
Well,
you've discussed it with
We had engineers
anybody.
up there, and we got no answers.
And that was,
We got-
that was done 25 years ago or so,
That
too.
was done before the 1970s.
So 30, 40 years ago.
Yeah, and it wasn't done with, it was done with what they call, it's just a cold mix. You
Yeah,
spray,
yeah.
you spray tar, put stone on it, spray more tar, put more stone on it, and leave it, and it's been there.
Ever since.
Well, it's been buried.
Well, it's got
Terry
dirt in
dug
it, but
that
I mean, it
out.
was never really maintained. It was just
Right.
there.
Right.
And, the longer we leave that, the worse it's gonna get, and the more it's gonna cost.
Yeah, when I inspected it with Ken on Friday, I have to concur. I can't believe how fast that paved ditch is eroding. Now, when I talked to Terry about even the driveway fixes, and we figure out where the money's coming from, basically, what we're ineffectively doing is reallocating our gravel, a portion of our gravel budget. I mean, that's the only way I can see it, because his capital improvement budget, he's
is really tied, there's specific.
tied, but also I think several of these are underway, not completed, but, so my sense, am I nuts, but that we could do it for less than $3,000?
Material cost, I would say that. You could
And
go
that
a lot-
it basically takes a couple of crew. It would take more than a day,
Yeah.
for
Yeah.
sure.
I mean,
Terry and the-
but
Terry
you-
and-
I mean, the key is, Margie, you've gotta tie that in
That's right.
to the edge of the pavement on the road.
Do you think they can hand?
Yeah, do we have the equipment to do that, though?
Yes.
They
Are
got
we gonna
hand
need a
shovels,
roller?
They got an excavator.
I
They-
know, but you don't have to like roll that stuff, so you have a nice.
Yeah, you've got to roll it. I mean, they did,
We
the
don't
one
have a
that they
roller,
did down
do
by
we?
Mertz Knolls, it looks really good.
Do we have a roller?
I don't know what they've got for that stuff, but I know it looks very good.
If
At
you've been, did you see the
Yeah,
work they did
yeah,
by
I saw
Mertz?
it. Yeah, I
It would
did.
be something comparable, it's a little bigger project, but it would be
Right.
comparable to that.
What the player you're talking about?
I don't remember, six
Four,
or eight,
6
maybe.
or 8.
There's some been done already.
So is the ditch gonna be perpetuated through the driveway? So the water's coming down?
What they did is where they go through a driveway, they did exactly what I would have done. They make it shallower, but wider. And where it's in between, they make it deeper, but it's, you know.
It's narrow, it's
Because
narrower in width,
narrow-
but.
yeah, right, exactly.
Yeah. Yeah.
And it just, you make it in the driveway, so it's good for a car to get through.
Well, that's the only concern I had, is like, if you start
And-
doing a big ditch all the way down there, paved out, some guy comes in, rips off his, spoiler off the front of his car, and, well, now he's mad at you because he's got
Yeah.
tar.
Well, some people are gonna be mad at you for looking at them.
Damned if you do, damned if you don't.
Exactly.
So basically, at the price tag that we're talking about, and again, we can tie it, and Margie can tie it down, working with Terry. Preliminarily, though, this is within her perusal, as far as of authorizing the expenses. This is part of the day-to-day operations of the town. But I believe that, as I'm seeing here, I don't think this requires a formal motion because of the fact that it's, town business, and it's also conceivably below budget constraints. I would say that we, by consensus, we're authorizing Margie to work with the road foreman to implement this maintenance item. Do I have consensus on that? If I'm understanding?
Well,
it
as
Comfortable
soon,
with that, Margie?
well, as soon as, well, I'd like, what I want is a cost estimate, materials, and I want Terry to estimate this the way he would any capital improvement project, and to make that information available to board members. And I'm hoping that it does come in under 3,000. If it doesn't, then it's on the agenda for October 7.
I would also like to make sure, even though I'm assuming this would happen without my having to say anything, that he speak with each landowner to let them know what we're doing and that this is our best, the best of the worst, if you will. We were, not that this we're guaranteeing, but we want to do something. So that they know what we're doing, as opposed to, we do it, it doesn't work, and then they come out and start letting us know how terrible we were, as opposed to letting them know up front, we need to try something, and this is our best estimate, and to get their consensus before we start doing it.
I don't think he can do that. I think perhaps it's the board's role, since we made that decision to triage and whatnot at the last meeting, that maybe that's the letter that people are looking forward to. I know the is it Hardee's? I'm going to start to forget
Farley's.
names. Farley's
Yep.
Well, then
asked,
maybe that's what we should do.
Somebody
I'd like
draft
some
or I
type
can
of,
draft.
something,
Let them know what we're
let them
trying-
know what we're
our
doing.
plan is,
That we've spoken with an engineer, we've had our experienced member of the board, it's a difficult problem, this is our best shot, and we're going to try it.
Yeah, the experienced member of the board and the road foreman concur that this is,
Yeah.
appears to be the best solution for this project.
I don't think we really got an answer out of that engineer.
No, I agree with you, I agree with you.
I think
Didn't get
he's a
much
better
of anything.
politician than anybody sitting here.
Are you two comfortable working together to draft that?
Sure, I can put
Yeah,
something
it
together
doesn't
and run
have
it
to-
by you. Unless you want to put something together, run it by me.
And I think concurrently, Margie, you can just chat with Terry once he gets back in town later this week, and
I mean,
Oh, yeah.
I think
Communicate
we
with
gotta
him
get
on
as
cost.
quick as we can, Margie. I don't think we can
Well,
wait on
because
that
we're going to
much.
No, I
run out
know.
of the time in terms of weather, too, to be doing that stuff.
Yeah.
it's just brief, but I think people need, it's a courtesy.
Yeah, that's my thought.
Yeah, but I mean, it's just, I don't think we can wait a heck of a lot longer.
I agree.
No, we can't.
The only other thing I got, is there any plan for any kind of line painting anywhere, Margie?
Terry had been coordinating that with the state as usual, in late June. That he gets the notice in June.
I know they don't
They're
do it.
doing striping or
They do it,
line
what,
painting or
every other
fog
year,
lines.
Every 2 years or something?
Well, we'd have to talk with Terry.
Yeah, because the person was complaining about, White Creek Road. Specifically from, Brownell's Junkyard up the hill, around that corner up there.
I know we regularly get complaints about that road, because it seems like the lines where they're,
And I know that
the corners.
Terry's.
Lebanon Valley.
yeah, exactly. It's like a race course through there.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay. Thanks. So the answer, we'll check with Terry to see where the status is on that.
All right, but I just, that's in response to a citizen's request.
Thank you. Mitch?
I just have a quick poll of the select board and the administrator. Do you think the town constable is something worth pursuing?
Sure.
Yes.
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 Okay, that's all I want to know.
Well,
You mean in terms of appointing?
Or
Right,
trying to move the process
Moving it
forward.
Yes.
Moving forward.
Yes.
but I want to plant a couple of questions. I guess if, I'm going to play the devil's advocate and pretend I'm a voter. I want to know what you see as the pros and the cons, and what are the downsides and what are the real pluses.
The pros.
And let's see, what else could I help? Well, I'll think more about it, Mitch.
Okay.
Yeah,
And I think those are parts of the discussion at the.
That's what we want, that we're going to
Right.
put it on the agenda and have the
Yeah.
town.
and
come
when
in.
is that discussion going to happen? Is that going to happen after we get directive from the voters, or should you have all those answers prior to?
Prior.
Oh, no, we needed ahead of
So,
time. Yeah.
that was really one thing.
Anything
I mean,
else, Mitch?
Obviously, the pro is that we have a local person that we can go to.
Oh, here's,
There's a lot of pros.
He knows his-
Okay, yes.
here's a thought about that. Now, if you agree to a point, let me follow this train of thought. Would that mean that this person is coming on board as an employee or an independent contractor? It could be either or.
Well, the constable right now is a stipend employee.
Well, be compensated at, well, you could still, no, stipend doesn't denote status.
Okay.
So if it's an employee, then we have an open search. You're not just going to, we would have to advertise, it's a position.
What do the other towns do, Margie?
I don't know, I haven't had a
That's
chance to.
That's part of a discussion.
So these are things to think about,
Yeah.
how we are going to procure.
I would say when you have a constable, that person is acting as an agent of the town. They're performing an inherently governmental function for the town. Therefore, they would not reasonably be an independent contractor as an agent of the town performing an inherently governmental function. They would be just that, an agent, just like
The town clerk.
any other agent, like an FBI agent. They represent the town, so I don't think you'd.
But they're
that
no
would-
longer an elected official. They
Doesn't
still
matter.
have a
So
statutory
what? When
defined.
somebody hires somebody to be an agent of the company, they are not, they're not elected, they're selected.
Well,
Yeah,
we
but
have
you
an
still
animal-
you only have two choices.
We have an animal control officer who is not considered an employee of
But
the
there's
town.
the reason behind that, and it's very, and the constable is a very different situation, that it comes down, there's 20 items of control. Some of the bigger ones are, do we tell them when they need to work? Do we tell them where they need to go? With the animal control officer, we contract her to do what she does, but she does it because she is the expert. She knows what and she goes and does it and takes care of them, boards them. When you have someone that's a constable, they're enforcing town laws. We tell them when they need to be there. We tell them how to do certain things. I think the constable is it's a different animal, no pun intended.
You still
than the
only
animal
have two
control.
choices.
But
Well,
wait a
well-
minute, wait a minute. We have a contract with the sheriff's department. And is it because it's one individual? Because the sheriff's department, we can tell them how many hours a week. We can tell them where we want them to be in
No.
town.
We don't tell the officer who's roaming around
That's what
what
I'm
to
saying.
do.
Maybe there's a
We
difference
tell
because
the
it's the
chief of
individual.
police in Bennington what our needs are, and he or she, whatever it is, instructs that person.
Sure.
Here, we are instructing that person what they are to do for the town.
Right.
And again, they are representing the town.
Yeah, but Carl, there are only two options for compensating somebody. they're either an employee or they're going to be an independent contractor.
Fine, you can call them an employee, they're not an independent contractor. In my opinion, they would never be considered an
Okay.
And
independent
well, if
contractor.
they have a salary,
And,
and plus they get mileage reimbursements, and
Then
plus
that's
they
an
get a
employee.
stipend for
That's perfectly
equipment.
fine, of course they're gonna
fine,
get a salary.
that's fine.
Yeah.
So that means that this person, we are going to be opening a search for a town employee. And
Okay,
it has
fine.
to be
Yeah.
according to our own personnel policies.
Yeah,
So
and that's
It would be
fine,
an open
but,
search,
but, but,
you'd have applicants.
right. But the problem, or the
But
thing that you
it's
have
not-
is,
It's a, I think you can't just have an applicant because there's certifications that are
Well, no,
required. I
that's-
guess you could,
Well,
that would be
that-
part of the
that has to
requirement.
go in
That
the-
would have to be.
And
in
you'd
the
have to have a
description.
job description.
Right.
yeah, which is,
I think this is part of what we want on our agenda next time as opposed to other business.
Exactly.
Can we move along?
Right. Yeah. I
yeah,
would
that's
agree.
that is exactly what I was going to say. But those are exactly the kind of things you
I
need to
think you're going to
discuss.
have a one-topic meeting on the 7th.
That's your, so that's the reason, and actually, it circles back.
I
Mitch.
have
This is a re-
nothing else.
Yeah, this is the reason that we need to have another meeting, Mitch, is right here. This is exactly it. Karen,
No, no, we're going to move things
Margie?
along.
any other? All right, I have one item. Poorly kept secret, I guess, or I guess it's not really a secret. I've had the fortune of being offered an employment opportunity in another state. After a lot of consideration, I've decided to take that position, which will, and it's coming up very shortly. Based on that decision, that would render me unable to continue in my role here on the select board because quite frankly, I won't be living here anymore. So it makes it a little tough, kind of goes against the rules. Based on that, I'm tonight offering my resignation effective at September 30th from the board. So I can move forward and take that position in Michigan. I will take this time, this is what I actually put in the letter, but I truly am humbled to have had the opportunity to work with some really devoted individuals on the boards. I started about 7 or 8 years ago. I started out on the Planning Commission when they had a vacancy. After several years, I really enjoyed that, some great people there. When a select board seat opened due to a resignation about 4 years ago, I decided to give it a whirl because as some of you have heard me say in the past year or so about, a lot of people have a lot of ideas, there's a lot of good people in the community, and I invited people to come and be part of the solution. I felt I was going to do the same thing, and I hope that I've done that. But I've I've felt, as I said, truly honored to work with the members of the boards, the employees of the town, Margie and the road crew that I've worked with, and members of the community at large. It's been a great experience. I thank you all for your confidence and support, and I'm truly honored to have had the opportunity to serve with and for all of you. So I thank you all for that. And with that, that's all I have to say.
Well, now, since I didn't say anything before in my few minutes, I'd just like to thank Craig for all of the time that he's given and chairing. It's a big position. I mean, it's a lot of work, and I think you've just done a really nice job listening to folks, and you're very reasoned, but you've really, for the most part, kept us on task, and the clock, we're getting out in a reasonable manner, so, but I've worked with you over the last 4 years, or whatever it is, you've been on the select board, and before that, and the town has been very, very lucky to have you serving it, and the residents, so.
Thank you.
I thank you. It's really been a pleasure. I'm going to miss you a lot.
It's very hard to follow that comment because it's absolutely correct. We have been very, very fortunate in having you lead us very, very reluctantly saying goodbye. and it will not be the same board without you, dare I say, and I can only wish you the very, very best in the future, and Michigan's gain is truly our loss. I wish you could be here for the remainder of the term, but wish you very, very well on your travel. Thank you.
As an Italian man told me, buono fortuna, good fortune.
Thank you, thank you. Thank
I
you very
haven't
much.
been here very long, Craig, but it's been a pleasure working with you and knowing you, and good luck out there.
Thank you. Thank you very much. So now we've dispensed with that. We have one more item tonight that actually it's an executive session issue that I would like to ask the board if we could move to executive session and take care of that last item for this evening.
So moved.
So moved.
Second.
Is there any further discussion?
Oh, we need to mention what it is that we're doing. in
Oh, it's executive session personnel, I'm sorry. Is there any further discussion? There being none, all those in favor of moving to executive session personnel signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries unanimously. Thank you very much.